me. Welcome, everyone.
Oh yeah, day after tomorrow.
Yeah, Father's Day. I think it's on the 16th there, Chemo. This is probably going to be a deleted hangout. I'm just doing a kind of a test. I want to see how it kind of relates to StreamYards to Twitter, and because if you come into the Twitter space, you can hear the people on Twitter, but the Twitter people are not going to hear the people on StreamYards. So if somebody comes on the StreamYards, I'm going to try to convince them to go over to the Twitter. But anyways, I wanted to kind of do a test, and I just picked the topic. Atheism is the belief that there is no God. Changed my mind. Unfortunately, everybody I know in my circles on Twitter agrees with me on this, so it's really kind of a waste of my time to do it on Twitter. But anyways, I do have Silenced in here. I've got Creationist. What's up, man? I got to invite you in here too. No, I follow you. I don't have to invite you up here.
Not much.
Yeah.
Can the people hear me?
Yeah, let me ask that. That's what I want to test, right? Can you guys hear him? Yeah. Let me get Creationist translation up here. I've been a long time. Creationist translation.
To the world of tomorrow.
So Kimomaki out there, can you hear Silenced out there? Because like I said, this is mostly a test. It may be deleted unless it gets interested. If it's still up by tomorrow, then something happened. You may want to continue listening. If not, then it won't even be there for tomorrow. He says, I can hear you just fine, audio okay, but can you hear the people in the Twitter space? And Tom,
that's what we want to know.
Yeah, that's what we want to know.
Hear both of us. Like if you can hear both of us, Mothball should be at the end aisle. I'm not at the end aisle at the bottom.
All right. Well, Tom says he invited God to attend this hangout, and God didn't give him an RSVP or something, so God didn't show up. Really not expecting to. The Sabbath Breaker says, I just asked Siri, disbelief or lack of belief in God, which is absolutely irrelevant to the topic of the discussion. Appeals to dictionary is not good argument. If you're going to try to convince me, bring some evidence, bring some actual argumentation. We're not playing in high school level. We're playing college level. This is going to be a freshman level discussions that I'm going to be having from now on. I'm not going to be dealing with the idiots out there. I got a dictionary. Nope, that's not going to cut it with me. If you're going to convince me that I'm wrong, you're going to say that what I know about atheism is incorrect, you're going to need to do better because I do not believe you. That's why I have these open discussions, right? I'm pretty sure that Creationist translation agrees with me on this. I don't know why he's not up here.
I agree with you to a degree that like the idea of any single God cannot be proven beyond the shadow of doubt, because there's definitely going to be a doubt there. The presence of a spirituality in some form could be argued, because like if you're going to refer to science, right, to prove or disprove anything, well, there's an equal argument to disprove anything or prove anything to the contrary.
Right, but here's the thing, though. I mean, that's not. But when I want to debate is, I argue that atheism is the belief there's no God, and I've been told by atheists who don't know what the hell they're talking about that it is incorrect. I would like them to explain to me how that is incorrect when that is the standard interpretation in philosophy. And if you go study philosophy, this is going to how you're going to use it. This is how you understand it. So I want it to be educated, so to speak, by the atheists online that are telling me that that is incorrect. That's my whole goal, right? And so
I'd love to listen to that. I'd love to listen to one of
I would love to have somebody explain it to me. I mean, in 10 years, I haven't had it happen yet. So, hey, Tom, let me get you up here, because I think Tom may disagree on this. I don't know. We'll see.
There we go.
You know what? Should I put the link to join in the StreamYards? No, I'll just use. You know what? I think I'll just do the Twitter space. No, I'll just do the Twitter space, because if they come in the StreamYards, they won't be able to hear. You won't be able to hear them. So what's the point? Now that I think about it, I might as well stick with Twitter space.
Yeah. I mean, if they're hearing the voice through the Twitter space, then you've already got the audio going through. So
right, exactly. Oh, and by the way, it's funny because I've been also told that disbelief doesn't mean to believe the negation, even though every citation I have going back to a logic book from 1925 says that disbelieve P means to believe P is false. So if you're going to convince me that I'm wrong on that, you're going to need some evidence, because I don't believe you.
I read that thread. As soon as I saw it, I was like,
you saw what I was talking about. I'm not making this up, right?
Talking about?
I am not making this shit up. I'm not doing it. It's actually what happened. I'm not even joking. People on Reddit telling me that's not what it means in logic. Really? Okay, I need a citation on this.
Because when I saw that on X, I was like, okay, what is Steve arguing against? Because I agree with what he's put at the beginning here, but
what is Steve doing now?
Show more button.
Damn that, Steve. Damn it.
Hey, it takes a Steve to know a Steve. Okay?
Yeah,
that's my name too.
You can dress me up, but you can't take me anywhere, I've been told. Dark Professor, welcome, buddy. And by the way, if I follow you, you can come up. I don't need to invite you, but I'm going to do it anyways. Tom, get up here. You're in the Twitter space. Come on. Change my mind. Convince me that I'm wrong here. I need a challenge. I'm sorry, but, and I'm just going to say this, none of the internet atheists, the online atheists, the new atheist TM, none of them are challenging. I mean, like legit, none of them are challenging. And I don't care if that sounds pompous or egotistical or arrogant or narcissistic. I don't care. They're beneath the freshman level of college. That is my minimum threshold to have a basic conversation with on this topic any longer, because it doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah, I don't disagree with like you saying that. I say that to people all the time. Like, okay, if you're gonna have an argument with me, you have to take a position.
Yeah. Well, you at least have to take the position that you're not just, look, at the very minimum, right? If you don't believe me, the best you can do is say, hey, Steve, I'm going to argue that you're not justified to have your position. That's really the best you can do.
Right.
If you're not going to take a position that I'm wrong,
right?
If you're going to say, hey, Steve's wrong, because if you say I'm wrong, then you have a claim. You need to, have you the burden of proof there. And even saying that I'm not justified is a claim. That's a burden of proof. To not accept my proposition has a burden of proof, as I've explained many, many times. All positions have a burden of proof. This is just standard. This is basic epistemology, that if you don't agree with somebody, you have a burden of proof to explain why. It's called burden of defense, burden of refutation. I mean, come on. So where did he go, Tom? Where did Tom go? Silenced. Tom, come back.
They disappeared out of nowhere.
By the way, if you can't join, refresh the X. That's what's happening. Yeah. Frankly, Breaker says, frankly, you're saying the dictionary is wrong, not convincing. That is not what I said. Where did I say that?
No, that's not.
I don't think I said that. And so, again, if you're going to convince me, you cannot lie about my position or mislead people or be strawmanning. I'm not saying he lied, but you cannot strawman my position. Nowhere did I say the dictionary is wrong. What I said always is that these are descriptions. And if you believe something to be the case, you disbelieve the negation. So I'm arguing that in philosophy, atheism is a belief that God does not exist. So what's the argument? Appealing to a dictionary is not going to do anything. Sure, people use words all the time differently. That's not the argument. My argument is atheism is understood as a belief there is no God as standard in academia, in philosophy. That's it. Yeah. So Siri was right about dictionary. Yeah, Siri got a dictionary right. Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. One thing I do want to point out about the title here, going to prove to me that there is a God. Well, a lot of people that I would ask very much the same sort of question is they would refer to the Bible. I'm sorry, no. In this case, the Bible is not a primary source.
No, I think it is, though. I'm going to disagree with you on that.
About God. Why?
No, any evidence?
Oh, really?
Okay, yeah. Look, and here's the reason why. Hear me out. If I say, look, this is my proposition. This is what I want. This is what I believe. And again, sandbox arguendo. That's not my actual position. But I say, hey, look, I believe in God. And I have reasons to believe in God. They say, what are your reasons? Well, let's look in the Bible what the reasons are. That is actual evidence. It is historical accounting of people that believe these things. It may not be sufficient evidence. It could be bad evidence. It could not be convincing evidence. But that is evidence of people positing. Because again, if I say, hey, look, George Washington, went across the Rubicon in whatever year it was or something like that, I can look at a history book and say, hey, in this history book, this is evidence. So it doesn't matter whether the Bible is, correct about God existing or not, but it's still evidential. I mean, to say it's not, I think is very, very dismissive. But it may not be convincing evidence, right? But it might be initial evidence to somebody to say, okay, maybe there might be a God. Hey, I'm going to pray to God, and if God reveals himself to me, then I'll be a believer. Some people have said that has happened. I'm not one of them, but it's,
Yeah. I'm quick to dismiss that because I'm literally in the Bible Belt, and it's a case where you hear, oh well, if you don't believe in God, then you must believe in nothing. You must believe in hell. You must be, or you don't even believe in hell. You don't believe in anything. Your life is not fulfilled. Well, no, that's not the case. There's other things about life that you can look at.
Of course.
And instead of just the Bible, I say that the Bible is not a primary source a lot of the time.
It is a
source. It depends on what the argument is.
Primary does a lot of heavy lifting there. The Sabbath Breaker says, I'll go with dictionaries rather than your paper, as should others. No offense at all. Sabbath Breaker, if you really read my paper, which I don't think you did, the definition I use is the one that Siri gave you. literally, that is the crux of my paper. If you use this definition, what happens? Would you like to explain that to my audience? Because my paper uses Siri's definition. So how does it make sense to say I'd rather go with dictionary definitions in your paper, but my paper uses that definition? Can you explain that to me? Kimamaki says, when I hear by definition, I know that nothing of interest will follow, except if you're dealing with mathematics, right? And logic. And there are some prescriptive definitions, even in sciences. I do think that's the case, right? If I say like the speed of light is how many kilometers it is per second, that is by definition, right? Because speed of light is defined to be a specific definition, right? It's literally defined as 299,792,458 meters per second. So when you say the speed of light is 299,792,458 meters per second, by definition, that is exactly true. It is by definition. Floyd says, I'm not yet Floyd. Roger Wilco says, I'm just not convinced. Well, good for you. You're not convinced me either. I'm convinced that I'm right. I'm convinced. So if you're not convinced that I'm right, then I don't care. You haven't shown that I'm wrong. So useless conversation. Floyd says, when are these Lactheists going to grow up? Probably never. I thought they got past it, Floyd, but unfortunately, I'm finding out from atheists on Reddit that that's not the case. In fact, I think that a lot of them have actually quadrupled down and gotten worse, because the atheist community that's left, it still holds to Lactheism, are the bottom of the barrel. I mean, they're like the scum, the fungi, the mold on the bottom of the barrel that grows when you have the bottom of the barrel, right? So, yeah, they're still around. And by the way, Floyd, do you have Twitter? I don't remember, man. I would bring you around the StreamYards, but the problem is that the Twitter people wouldn't be able to hear you, so it'd be kind of weird. That's why I was trying to test out how I could do that, and I can't figure out really the way to do that because I can't share anything in the Twitter space. Yeah.
The only way that I think you would be able to do that is if you somehow had some sort of linked audio, like, okay, so you know how every audio is input and output. Well, if you had a second spot of input, or you had a second spot from output from whatever source you're recording from, then those sources would funnel through. The big problem that you're facing, which you outlined, is, well, sorry.
When I get echo, if I use voice meter to do something like that,
you would not only would you get echo, but it's the same problem that you said, where we wouldn't be able to hear the people on StreamYards, and StreamYards wouldn't be able to hear us.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't know if you're following on the video, so I'm going to read out the comments. My live chat's kind of going crazy. Kimo says, of course, when you're talking about the nomenclature of science, definitions become significant. Yes, I think in any topic, though, right? If I'm here's what's going to change, Kimo Maki. So going forward, generally speaking, I'm going to be talking at the intro level of philosophy and logic on my channel and on Twitter and on Reddit and every other place. So when people say, "Oh, you're not talking about atheism as they understand it," I don't care. That's irrelevant. I'm talking about how it is in philosophy. And I've done that before, but not as much as I probably should, to explain to people that if you want to use theory as a guess, if you want to use evolution means change, knock yourself out. But that's not my argument. My argument is that atheism is the belief as standard in philosophy, and it's better to even use that. I will even go so far to make a claim that Draper is right, that it is, he argues that it is better, right? I mean, in a peer-reviewed paper on Stanford, he argues that that is the better way to go. And I absolutely agree with that too. So somebody can challenge me on that as well. But to say that atheism is not a belief, as some atheists have told me on Reddit, they're completely ignorant of basic atheism, of basic atheology, right? Would you agree?
I agree with the term atheology.
Yeah. So
I think that's what we should start calling it instead of atheism.
I have used atheology. And I also want to use other terms, like maybe like, you know, the lactheism. I think I was thinking like protheism. Or no, there's already protheism. No, because there's antitheism, protheism. It would be like lactheism, so lack atheism. I mean, lack atheism has already been around too. That's already been coined kind of as an extensional thing from, you know, lack theism. But I mean, lack atheism. But I mean, I need something different. I need a new term that signifies, you know, some kind of academic, you know, standard. Travis Reactor says, if your paper was in agreement that atheism includes lack of belief in God, well, yeah, that's the argument is that people use it this way. So, but these are not prescriptive definitions. So when you say the definition includes, that just describes people's usages. It doesn't mean that if you meet this criteria, you're an atheist. There's nowhere in Google's definition that if you, are you okay? Okay. There's nowhere in Google's definition that if you meet the criteria of not believing God, you must be an atheist. That's prescriptivism. which I don't think anybody should have prescriptivism in English because English is not a prescribed language. And then he says, then I misunderstood and I apologize. If you think it means only believe in God, my point stands. Well, no. I've literally been saying for 7-8 years that atheism has like multiple meanings. But the one that's common in philosophy is the belief there is no God. And that when people say, well, atheism is not a belief in God, they're clearly wrong. They're clearly not understanding atheism. Do you agree with that, Sabbath Breaker? Because the question is this isn't, are these words used this way? Is the proposition atheism is the belief there is no God a proposition that is used in philosophy as standard? Yes, that is the claim. So when somebody says, well, atheism isn't the belief in God, they don't know anything about atheism. Like literally, I don't think they've read a single paper on it. I could ask them, hey, name one atheist philosopher, and they probably want to know, right? Greetings, Big Nick. Greetings, Travis.
That's a Big Nick.
It's Big Nick with NIC, like
That's
Nick, like a Nick card. NIC.
Oh,
Nick.
okay.
Yeah. Like remember the Nick cards for Ethernet?
No, I don't. I think it was before my time.
God, I feel old.
I think I was too young for that one.
Do you remember the acoustic modems, the 300 baud acoustic modem, where you actually had a?
I do remember those.
Okay, see. Hi, Poggy. Hi, Poggy. Welcome, Poggy. Yes, I'm on Twitter. The Big Nick, he says. Yes, the Big Nick. And so this is a common misunderstanding, because let me ask Sabbath Breaker here. Sabbath Breaker, did you read my paper? Poggy read my paper. He followed it along. Whether he agrees with the conclusion or not really that much of a deal. He has read it. He understands logic. He says the Boolean logic that he looked at is fine. So let me ask the Sabbath Breaker here. Did you follow my paper? Like, did you go through it and step by step go through the logic as many people have to make sure that the logic is correct? Because that's a big thing. All right. Anyways, meat. How you got meat? Meat. Who's got the meat?
Arby's, I thought.
Yeah, they used to. Meat, I can't hear you. Big Nick says Christ is King of Kings. Well, we don't quite believe that, but that's okay. But you're welcome to. I have all kinds on my channel, man. Christian, atheist, it doesn't matter. Poggy says, I see the value in conclusion. Yes, I think in philosophy circles, you have a good point, very good point. I'm not in those circles, and I'm not necessarily saying that I'm adherent to those. But and he's continuing, and I think he's right on that. I mean, look, and I'm not putting Poggy in this category, so Poggy is above this category. But the bottom of the barrel atheist you find on YouTube, right? The angry atheist, the atheist from the Atheist Experience, the atheist from Reddit. None of them know anything about atheists that I've ever seen. None of them. I have not. I don't recall a single atheist in those communities that have read a single paper on atheism, except for Draper's, obviously. SEP. That was the only one that I've ever seen them quote, which is a paper. Yeah. Meat.
Yeah.
No,
Hi.
Hola, ¿cómo está usted? Escuche bueno.
Muy bien, ¿y tú?
Muy bien, bastante bien. Necesita comida más. Yo estoy hombre, ¿quieres una café con azúcar?
Coffee with sugar?
Yeah, con leche también. Yo tengo pantalones. Me gusta es rojo.
Gato.
Yo tengo un gato y pelo.
Often
Tengo
a lot of
cuatro
customers
gatos.
that are Hispanic, Steve.
GSO says, nah, you're just trying to shift the burden of perfume. Yes. He says, and GSO Journey's theist. He's a cool guy. I was on his channel the other day. I was his first, actually, if I'm not mistaken, his first live that he had with the Q&A. I was his guest, so I appreciated that. JCO Journey says, nah, you're just trying to shift the burden of proof, you theist. And again, that's a joke. Because Floyd says, if Christians want a king to rule over them, then aren't American Christians committing treason against the Constitution? Interesting question. Big Nick says. KK says, hi, I haven't read your paper. I've read Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy on it, but I believe there should be a complete break in common usage that atheism means a lack of belief. What do you mean by complete break, by the way, KK? And by the way, the Twitter space is open here if you want to come in. I will put the link to the Twitter space. Actually, I'll pin that. That might be work better. But I'm not sure.
Yeah, I looked in the description for that. And I was like, oh, I got to find it on Twitter.
Yeah, so I'm going to put that in the live chat right now, and I'll pin it. There you go. So right there.
And Twitter's actually gotten really good about that. Like, just whenever your space pops, it's like, oh, hey, he's live. Oh, okay.
Ooh, I got a super chat. Kawasa. My mods. What? He says for 10,001, which is I think 50 cents. No, it doesn't matter. $1, $10, $100, $1,000, $1 billion. It's the fact that people even super chat. I'm really appreciative. And he says you're all crypto theists. All the bunch of you snort. Yeah, the fallacy I named on that, right? To prove thy God. Remember that one? Because people think that anybody who disagrees with online atheist must be a theist. Yeah. But anyways, Meek, go ahead. Sorry. Thank you, Kawasa.
Yeah, what's up? So I've been an atheist a long time. I'm in the chat too. I'm Travis.
Oh, Travis. I see you, Travis.
Yeah. And this Twitter account is based around my carnivore diet research hobby. So I built a website and I study evolution, paleoanthropology.
Oh, you're a smarty pants.
Comparative physiology. Yeah.
You're one of them.
And right now I'm finishing a master's in nutrition science. And but yeah, I also run the street epistemology subreddit.
Oh, okay. So you know Anthony.
Space for I know Anthony.
Yeah, I go way back with Anthony Megadabosco. Actually, it was funny. Not to derail too much, but I actually wrote one of the first reviews of street epistemology for Anthony, like I don't know, 7-8 years ago.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Me, Ozzy, Mandy, Francis second, and I think it was Ocean Keltoy at the time. But go ahead.
Oh, yeah, no, I read the manual to create atheists, and then I was like, oh wow,
that's Peter Boghossian.
Reforms my thinking.
Yeah.
I mean, he's still a controversial guy. He's been live streaming a lot more on YouTube now, and has all sorts of strange guests. But
yeah, I mean, as a street epistemologist, run your thing because I mean, first of all, do you agree with me or disagree with me? Because we can.
Oh, I agree with you. I'm an agnostic atheist, and maybe even a Leviathan Satanist.
Okay, I tend to actually Temple of Satan, so we're going to probably butt heads on that. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, honestly, I don't really know which.
Yeah, Koss and Temple of Satan have had a long rivalry, by the way.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
but I looked into the details, and it's all just like petty, like human stuff.
Yeah. So let me ask you though. Okay, so I don't want to like do a full like an actual street epistemology thing with each other, but do you agree that atheism is the belief there is no God as standard in academia and philosophy 101?
Yeah, and I even just say like I don't know of how we can think about atheism beyond as like people making up characters in books.
Okay.
Like how would we encapsulate that thinking? Because we're getting into all this unexplored other realm stuff when we get into the philosophical God arguments, and I'm just like, there's no reason to even go beyond the point of someone made this up in a book.
Mm-hmm.
Like how would we describe what a wizard is? Like, are they spiritual? Are they magic? Are they God, a deity, a semi deity, whatever? So like you just started, someone made this up and it's probably not going to be true. And how would you falsify that if it was true?
It's funny you mentioned falsification.
It's also convenient, that like, God interacted back then, but he doesn't interact now. It's
I've argued that as well.
Because you can't make that up anymore,
Like, why don't we see bodies coming out of the ground? Why don't we see angels, flying around? I know, and I'm not even disagreeing with any of your argument on that. I really am not. Okay, but by extension, if you believe that all gods are bullshit, right? You believe that there are no gods. I mean, it just implies that, right?
Yeah.
And so when I see an atheist say, "Well, I'm not making a claim there's no God," they don't have the same position as you. So why would people want to have the same word as atheist? Because you're an atheist. You hold the position there are no gods. Why would that be the same label that I take when I don't have that position? Right? I lean toward it, but I am not convinced yet there are no gods. Nobody's convinced me there's no gods.
You
right?
saying like you'd prefer being agnostic?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I get that. To me though, it's like you could apply the same logic to everything. Like every mythical idea, character, ghost.
I agree.
So like,
yeah.
So like at that point, like, I don't know. It just kind of gets into semantics. Like, I'm agnostic about vampires. Maybe the stories are true. we don't have evidence, but you know, maybe something was there because it runs, so it's such a popular meme through culture or whatever.
Yeah, but the thing is that, and I didn't want to talk about falsification for a second, and when I get up to it, but the thing is that people aren't like spending thousands of years talking about leprechauns, right? I mean, they're not arguing this. They're not influencing politics. The God question is the single most unresolved question in metaphysics as far as the ultimate explanation, which is not even an explanation, I think. But you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's a huge question, right? So I think there is more emphasis because if God existed, it would fundamentally change humanity, right? If God revealed himself, humanity would change fundamentally. If God doesn't exist, humanity would change fundamentally. Just like if we had aliens come down and explain to us, all their technology, humanity would change. It is a significant question, right? I mean, sure, somebody could argue leprechauns exist. That's significant too. I grant that. I'll
like any supernatural myth, it would just break so many of our, like a invisible fire breathing dragon in my garage.
It would ruin science because then you couldn't hold for constants, right? You'd be like, well, leprechauns and God could change these constants.
Well, I mean, as long as it's somehow if we were detecting it, then it would be natural, right? So
no,
that's the other thing. Like there's like this supernatural distinction where even theists are like, well, there's no test to actually find this thing, and then you're like, all right, well, how did anyone ever detect it in the first place? And so it's just like, it's like as soon as you detect something, and that's also why I said initially I was agnostic. So like I don't have a good definition of God I can work with that I could falsify. So it's like, if we discover something, is it actually a God or is it just a new unknown natural thing that now we're calling natural?
There's so many different rabbit holes there, though. I use my own stipulated definition. God is God is a necessary being or agent with intentionality that from which all things contingent arise, and that can prescriptively change the constants of the universe or fundamental constants of the universe. Something like that. I'm going to call it.
See, like that definition already like breaks for me because intentionality like requires like a physical processor.
Yes, that's fine. That's what we're asking.
Brain.
Yeah, that's what we're asking for, though. But that's what we're positing.
But then they're also positing that it's not physical. So
well, you don't need physicality.
It's already
for a brain,
a contradiction
to a dualist. No, a dualist can just argue minds exist sans physicality. That's just a philosophical position. That's not. There's nothing illogical about that. That's the argument.
I think
God can exist as a mind. No, it's dualism.
Because like,
it's just dualism.
But that's just like turning a brain into a mind, which is like a useless distinction.
But it's still something that they're positive.
So if we just said, I don't really even talk about a mind. Like if you said like this God had a brain, then okay, like an immaterial brain, what does that mean?
Yeah, but that's the question that the theists are saying is that there is a mind that exists without a brain, and that's the cause of the universe. That's what they're positing. That's what needs to be evaluated. Real quick though,
right? But right away, like that definition, I would start arguing them right there. Like, doesn't make any sense. Like,
well, then you couldn't have the discussion. Then it makes perfect sense to me because I understand a little bit about philosophy of mind. I can say, I can totally understand what you're positing.
Yeah,
I don't believe that exists. Or I.
But then I'm just like, what part of this story couldn't be made up, and aren't we just anthropomorphizing?
Well, if it's made up, but if it's made up, you're automatically saying that. But if you call it made up, you're automatically saying you understand it and you believe it's false if you think it's made up. If I say a mind exists that created the universe and you say, well, you just made that up and it's just nonsense, then you're saying I don't believe you as I believe it's false because that being doesn't exist is what you're saying.
Yeah, of course.
Right. So it does make sense to you. You're not agnostic. You do know what people mean by God, because if you didn't, you wouldn't believe that there is none.
Well, I'm saying like the definition itself doesn't make sense. So I don't know like the logical.
But you did evaluate.
Yeah, I know. But like an immaterial brain, like I don't know what that means.
But like, you did know what it means. It means it doesn't have a mind. That's what it means.
Well, an immaterial brain just doesn't have a brain either.
It's a mind though. Mind is an abstract concept, right?
But it's always like attached to a physical brain.
Okay, but
works with ATP and everything.
But we can posit one without it and see what happens. I can say, look, minds can exist without a brain. Let's argue that. I can posit that if I was a theist. That's what they're doing. You can't say that doesn't make any sense because you're looking at it from a biological point of view, not a philosophical point of view. You're not addressing their argument. You're just saying in biology that can't happen, in which case we would all agree with you.
Right.
But we're not talking about
Right.
biology. We're talking about philosophy. You're in the wrong domain of discourse, right? You're talking about nomological laws. We're the theist is talking about metaphysics, not biology, and you're not addressing their argument on what they're positing, because you're looking at it from your specific domain, which is I think completely inappropriate to say, look, in this domain, what you're saying is not true. But that's not what the theist says. The theist is not saying, hey, look, Jesus rose from the dead, but that's perfectly fine in biology. Nobody's arguing that. I never heard a theist argue that. Real quick though, I do want to address this. Poggy says, well, it's not contradictory to say I lack a positive belief in God and I believe there's no God. You can do both without a contradiction. Absolutely, yes. Because if you believe there's no God, you lack a positive belief that there is a God, right? So one is a implicature of the other. It's called a subalternation. So if I say I believe God does not exist, that applies I do not believe in God. So that is absolutely not contradictory. Matter of fact, that's a subalternation I have in my paper. That's well defined. My live chat's going crazy here. Pogyoff says, basically what I'm saying is I think I agree with you that as an official position as lacking belief, it's kind of empty, which is fine. It is. It's just fine to say I don't believe you and prove it. No, it's not, because proving it, again, we've discussed, isn't what the theist is saying. The theist isn't saying I can prove God exists, right? That's a straw man.
They're saying they have faith. That's pretty much it.
They're saying what?
They have faith.
Some of them. Some actually say that it's more than that. I don't think the only people that really believe God on blind faith is called theist. I don't know many theists.
I know all those distinctions, but the problem is like faith is like the multiplier or the addition of 100 to a bunch of zero arguments. Like it's just a bunch of special pleading in various ways, and then they add faith in, and it multiplies it up to 100. Special pleading is when you take something out. Yeah, special pleading is when you, as a fallacy, when you remove something from a set with no justification for do so. And I mean set as an object. So they say like we have testimony for our religion, and all the other religions that have testimony.
Okay, what's being special pleaded there?
Right. Well, it's like their special pleading that their testimony is trustworthy.
No, anybody who has testimony believes that wants to believe. Anybody who has testimony is trying to convince people that they're trustworthy, right? That's not special pleading. How's that
right? I'm saying all religions have testimony that they're true, and the theist is saying, "Oh, I'm only going to accept testimony from one religion."
No, I'm
going to make a special case where testimony is valid.
No, because the theist can just say, "Look, I've looked at all the other religions, and I find them lacking." A theist can just say, I'm a Catholic and I just I reject Baptist. I reject Episcopalian. I'm saying they can't say that their testimony is a good reason because it's like the same level of evidence. So, but it's still evidence. It's still something you evaluate. Look. Let's put it this way: if you had, let's say you had a friend that absolutely trusts you, bar none, right? You guys have grown up together your entire life. You guys are both, adults, and you tell them, hey, look, I experienced something, blah blah blah. I've seen this entity, blah blah blah, and at best, or at worst, I should say, your best friend should at least say, look, I believe that you experienced something and has convinced you. Let's talk about that. That's undermining their justifications for street epistemology, but it's still evidence that there might have been, that they saw something, and that something might have been God. It's still an evidential chain there. Does it make sense? And by the way, I'm really good at this shit. I mean, I don't know how you can see epistemology for this very reason. Okay. Real quick though, Floyd says I don't believe in God, just like I don't believe in Russell's teapot. But here's the thing: Floyd believes there's no God, and we both believe that Russell teapot doesn't exist, right? I just did a stream on Russell's teapot last night. I wrote a little essay on it. Russell teapot doesn't exist. That's my claim. Big Nick says atheism isn't intellectually honest. That's a different hangout, which I disagree with. I think atheism is absolutely intellectually honest as long as it's justified properly.
Is Russell's teapot like non-exist because Russell made it up?
Well, that's one reason, right? We know he made it up. Therefore, I'm justified to believe that it's
the same thing then. Like we know who made each religion up.
You can argue that, yeah. But see, here's the thing: you can argue that, and you can put it in the same category. But the theist can say no, it's different. They can say no. There's evidence here. There's evidence there.
Okay, but like that's the debate, right?
But that's your argument.
It's not really a debate, though.
Well, if it wasn't a debate, there wouldn't be 2,000 years of discussion on it.
Well, like there's not really a debate on it. It's like these cognitive biases that
there
are
isn't
making us hold
philosophy.
on and use bad arguments.
But there are some arguments to be had that a necessary being might exist, and if a necessary being might exist, then that could be God. And so I think by fiat, you're just saying, you're just, hand waving it away, which you can do, but that's not going to get you anywhere. That's not going to convince any theist.
Well, I wouldn't convince them like that. I wouldn't get into the whole philosophical.
So there is a
discussion,
debate then.
I don't like. I don't think there's like an answer like anyone can point to anyway. You're just
I agree with you that.
Yeah. A bunch of semantics there. So like I hate those discussions. Like I never want to get into philosophy.
I love philosophy, but I don't like to get into discussions whether God exists or not. Those bore me to tears, man.
Yeah, like
I'm gonna invite Antangelo here, but be nice, Antangelo.
Well, yeah, I've talked to Antangelo before, and he's used special pleading on me.
Oh well, he's the fallacy king, man. Come on.
I know, and we're gonna hear about the Shroud of Turin.
No, I'm not gonna get into that. Angelo is on a very short leash. When he goes off rabbit holes, he knows he's not gonna stay very long.
Well, sometimes he just like doesn't stop talking either. Like we all know his argument really well, and then he's just like, "Oh, I need everyone to hear it again." And we're like, "You already committed the fallacy, man." Like,
yeah, but here's the funniest thing.
Move on.
I've seen so many atheists get fallacies wrong. I mean, one of the courses I took was contemporary rhetoric and fallacious reasoning. This is one of the courses I took in college. And when I hear people make a fallacy that they get wrong, it bugs me to no end because they're so cocksure about it, right? And I'm like, no, go look at the actual form of the fallacy. Go look at the actual philosophy of the form of the fallacy, and you'll see that what you're saying is not true. We've already established many times over that ad hominem and insult are not the same thing, right?
I'm confused though. Like you said, my special pleading claim was wrong for like testimony.
Yeah,
like I still don't understand why that is. What
is it they're trying? What is their special pleading? Why are they saying, "Hey, you can do this, but I can do this, but you can't"? What is the theist saying by doing that?
Well, they're saying like in general, we shouldn't trust testimonial evidence when it involves supernatural, miracle, like things that don't have proper precedent.
The theist is saying
like
that?
how to jump. Yes, because they're saying
they're arguing you
only believe.
They're
saying there's only one God out of
okay, but that's not special
tens
pleading.
Of thousands that actually have it. So that's the exception right there.
Special pleading would be, and this isn't special pleading, but the example would be something more along the lines of, hey, trust these people, but don't trust those people without explaining what is special pleading. Yeah, if I said, look, trust these groups of people, but don't trust that other group of people without explaining why you don't trust them or you shouldn't trust them, that's special pleading. If I just say, look, don't trust answers in Genesis, trust science, and I'm just having a very restrictive discussion, then somebody goes, well, that's special pleading. Why is it that you shouldn't trust answers in Genesis? And then you go, oh, look, here's my justifications for removing them from credible sources. That's how you avoid special pleading. Does that make sense? And Kimamaki says, Steve's right about special pleading thing. He schooled me in that a few years back, or bad. He schooled me a few years bad, and my ass still hurts from the spanking I took. But you know what? There's nothing wrong with a good spanking now again. Kimamaki, that's what I'm here for. I'm here to spank the theist and spank the atheist, but mostly the atheists, because I want them to get better at their argumentation. Because I'm sorry, internet atheists, you all are fucking stupid out there on the New Atheist Reddit, Twitter Spaces. When you're going around talking about philosophy and you don't even understand what atheism is in philosophy, you sound like an idiot. Stop it. You make all us non-believers look bad, and it's silly, right? So. Anyways,
well, you're an agnostic, like
right, but I'm still a non-believer, right? We're in the same camp. Well, you and I are both non-theist. We're not a theist.
Yeah,
you're just taking you're an atheist because you believe there's no God. I'm not an atheist because I don't take that position. At least,
well, I'm an agnostic. I still don't know like what an immaterial brain mind thing is.
Then
like without like evolution and
then why would you even be having a discussion? Well, how can you say that all gods are bullshit, but you don't know what they mean by God? That's a contradictory statement.
Well, because I'm saying I'm more defining gods as like characters, like supernatural characters people make up in stories.
But that means they don't exist, right?
Right.
Okay, then you're arguing that the theist makes up a being. They're going to call that God, which just doesn't exist. and they're going to call that a
Right.
mind without a physical brain. So you do understand what they're talking about.
Yeah, like I understand that what they're talking about is like if we talk about what's the square root of -1, right? Like we can talk about that.
Yes, I
And we made up a word for that, I, which is
a
like
letter, but yeah, imaginary.
impossible,
Imaginary is
right?
the word, but yeah.
Imaginary, yeah. So like right there, like we made up imaginary.
But
We
you
can
know what the
talk
word
about
means,
it.
right? If I say, "Hey, do
But
imaginary
I'm
numbers?"
still, I'm agnostic on how to, take the square root of -1,
Why? You just
right?
one eye, or just one eye.
Well,
Right?
there, yeah, we've made up a way.
But here's the thing, though. When I
Imaginary.
say imaginary numbers exist, you can understand the question, but you have to know philosophy to understand what I mean by that. Do numbers exist in the nomological view, or do numbers exist in a Platonic realist point of view? Because if it's nomological, then they don't really exist. If it's Platonic, then they do exist. And so it's a fundamental question in philosophy how you want to treat abstract concepts. Floyd says, "I believe in sin. I'm all out of scotch, and that's a sin. It is." I've been told to try Johnny Walker Red, which is subpar to black, from what I understand. I like Johnny Walker Black.
It's cheaper.
I've never tried blue. I hear it's not worth the difference. But is Johnny Walker Red
It's like
worth
$200?
Oh yeah, no, hell no. But they say no. Somebody told me that they don't even like Johnny Walker Red better, which is fine. Cheaper can be better sometimes. Nothing wrong with that. Cheaper, like black, could be better than blue. But is it worth
I think the way to think of it is like red is less smoky. So
Ooh, but I like the
it's like a little
smokiness.
easier. Right. Well, that's why you like black.
Yeah.
I do.
If you like smokier, go black. If
Yeah.
you don't like smokier, then go red. Because like honestly, Johnny Walker not a bad brew. Really not.
It's so Johnny Walker Black is amazing. I love Johnny Walker Black. I haven't had Johnny Walker Black in
yeah.
years. I'm out of brandy too. I like E&J VSOP brandy, and I'm out of it. You know.
See, I'm more of a vodka and whiskey kind of guy.
No, my roommate's into vodka. I bought her a Grey Goose, and I got a full bottle of Grey Goose. So she doesn't even open it because she still has a little bit left from last time. I won't drink it. I'm not a big drinker as it is. I mean, if I drink anything, I put a little bit of liquor in my coffee, which I didn't do today. I should, but I just can't drink more than beer. I have one beer and I'm done. You know, I bought Hurricane.
I just had a 3.5%.
And I gave it to my neighbor. No, I like the cheap beer because I bought, like I said, I bought the Hurricane beer. And I bought 2 of them, and I opened one. I got about maybe a quarter, and I'm like, I can't even drink this. It's nasty. And so I gave it to my neighbor who would like everything. And he's like, dude, yeah, I'll drink that. I'm like, okay. He's out there drinking Heinekens and Takata beer and Modelo's. And he's a drink. I see like outside of the apartment, like tons of beers. And I'm like, yeah, you want the Hurricane? It's not open. It's just, I don't like it. He's like, fuck yeah. But hey, Floyd, why don't you come into the freaking? Why don't you come into the hangout here, buddy? Oh, by the way, hi, Iron Chariter. He says, do agnostics have a neutral stance on the problem of evil? Well, that's a completely different question. Agnosticism only deals in a contemporary modern analytical philosophy as the psychological stance of being agnostic, which means you don't have a position on the proposition. So you could be agnostic on the problem of evil. You can say, look, I don't have a position on either way, but you're not saying the problem of evil is true. You're not saying it's false. As far as the conclusion, right? If you agree with
how about this, Steve? Do you have a position on my positive claim that gods are all made up by people until proven otherwise?
Yeah, I accept that all versions of God that people have cannot all be correct, and therefore I have reserved judgment until I figure out which one is right, or if any's right.
I actually would support that theory that like everybody's interpretation of the Bible is going to be different, so everybody's interpretation of God is going to be different. It goes hand in hand as far as that one's concerned. So one thing I'd like to pose to you is something actually the Bible says. When Jesus told some of his followers in the Bible, I forget what chapter it was. I talked about this last night. I know I had a former priest on. He could have probably just been like, oh, that's Luke, or oh, that's Matthew, or something like that. When Jesus said, I am the truth, the way, and the light, he made a point to say, even if you don't believe in Christianity specifically or believe in a God, if you are doing the morally correct things in the eyes of what Christians would believe is a God, then you are following what that God's plan is. But that also, I understand that's kind of a moot point because I'm not saying whether or not God exists, but it is defined in the Bible as the truth, the way, and the light. Truth, way.
For a
right,
Christian, yeah.
specifically.
Well, again, but are these descriptive or are they prescriptive, right? Because if a theist argues that God is good, that's prescriptive, and it is also some have argued tautological in the sense that it appeals to the naturalistic fallacy, right? This is the problem with defining things as good. I mean, if you define things as God is good, you're not saying anything. You're not defining anything. It's just a naturalistic
Right.
fallacy.
God is spirit.
Yeah, well, I think you're kind of running the same problems, right?
Well, you see, but like even that goes against the Bible, because the Bible tells us that there's three holes. There's the Son, the Father, and the Holy Spirit. So there's the Holy Spirit right there. There's the spirituality. So
yeah, well,
Jesus
we
had to
have a guy in here that is a Christian, so he invited him up.
KK,
Yeah. He says,
KK, help me out here.
Yeah, help a brother out, man. Kiki says, I have a question. That's what we're here for. On what grounds philosophically can you make the case atheism is a lack of belief? I mean, if I had to put on my lack of belief atheist cap, the only way I can see people arguing that atheism should be only thought of as a lack of belief is merely for utility, for political reasons, for demographics, which I think is a very poor argument, but they can argue that. But I think that overall it makes it worse for atheists. But that would be the only way I can see trying to argue that atheism as a sufficiency condition. And that's really what we're talking about. What is the sufficiency condition for atheism? In philosophy, lack of belief is a necessary condition, but it's not a sufficient condition. If you read the literature for Schellenberg and many Rowe and Le Provostian, I think that's pronounced his name. Is it Robin Le Provostian? But they all argue that the sufficiency condition for atheism in philosophy is best understood as having the belief, the positive belief that there is no God. Merely not believing a God is insufficient to be atheist in philosophy. That's what they're arguing. That's what their positions are. So the case for atheism and lack of belief, I can only think of as would be utility. But I think it could be counter argued that you're sacrificing precision and you're sacrificing credibility in order for demographics would be the counter argument for that.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Because I'm right.
Steve,
I'm usually right on this shit.
Yeah,
Right?
you are usually right.
I know it sucks, man. It's a curse.
Ah, man, it is a curse. Eventually, you're gonna find the one person that challenges you, like, oh, really? Is this happening?
Dude, I would be thrilled. But a long time ago, I thought that, right? A long time ago, like I remember I had a debate on Modern Day Debate. It was one of my bigger debates because there's, live audience, and I debated a guy named Duke, the Duke. And this was several years ago, and he still to this day is still butthurt. He got his so spanked. Kimamaki, you think you got spanked? The Duke got spanked with a cat o' nine tails with sharp glass. Okay, even the comment sections, even the atheists were going, "This is the best that we have to offer, Steve," kind of thing. But I was going into that debate going, "Oh, this is cool. I have somebody who's actually going to maybe challenge me." But 10 minutes in the conversation, I'm like, this guy doesn't even know what the hell he's talking about. So I've kind of given up hope on that. I've tried though. Somebody's smart. Challenge me. Come on.
I'm not as smart. I'm sorry.
Wait, no, I don't mean it like that. You guys are all smart. I mean, somebody who disagrees with me fundamentally or who thinks I'm wrong, challenge me.
What about the null hypothesis? Like
the null hypothesis is used for statistical inferences, right? If you're doing inferential statistics, you use a null hypothesis. This has no relevance to the atheist claim. None. It's not an experiment.
Well, like what would we say for like the God claim though? Like where
let me ask you, what experiment you're doing, right? If you're going to invoke the null hypothesis, which is a term used for inferential statistics, where you devise an experiment that if the results are such that you can reject the p-value, you can say that your explanation is more explanatory than the null hypothesis. It's more likely, right?
Okay. So like,
what is your experiment for God, and what is your p-value to have a null hypothesis?
Like maybe the experiment would be: is there any sentence in all of human scripture that couldn't have been written by humans?
How is that naturally? An experiment? That's a thought experiment. That's not a scientific experiment. You're a scientist. You've done scientific experiments. We've all done scientific experiments in college, right? We've all had to go through the step by step and develop the, what is going to happen with this reaction, right? What is going to,
yeah.
We've all done this, right? So we know what an experiment is because we all had chemistry and biology, and I even took an astronomy lab, and we were doing experiments with spectrography. But again, they all teach the basics, where it's a null hypothesis, and if you take statistics, it's something that is used to determine whether your explanation is more likely. But you have to divide an experiment. But the problem is that science doesn't address the God claim. It's prohibited to by methodological naturalism. It's prohibited to by non-overlapping magisteria from Stephen Jay Gould's point of view, and I agree with him. So there is no scientific test you can do for God, I don't think, because God.
But I don't think. To me, like, it's not even about God. It's about why people believe in God.
Okay, but why do you have, what's the experiment then? But what? But
well,
you're using the
you
woman.
could see like you could see like what stimuli cause someone to believe in God.
But that's not. But that's a null hypothesis as far as the stimulation, right? That's not disproving God exists. Atheism is the belief there's no God.
I don't think that question matters. Like, that's what I'm saying.
But what's the null hypothesis? This is what I don't understanding. What's the null here? Like
that people are always capable of imagining any deity concept.
That's not a null. That's not an alternative explanation for anything. Like an experiment. Like, for example, if I say there is no God, what's the null?
Well, that is the null. Oh, like, what's the opposite?
No, what is the null that I'm rejecting to make if I'm doing an experiment to say, look, I'm going to do an experiment to demonstrate that the most likely explanation for the cause of the universe is God, and I have this experiment that's going to do it, the null would be that the more likely explanation, or the alternative explanation, the null is you cannot prove that it's less or more probable that your explanation is greater than the null based on your p-value, which is usually 0.05, right?
Yeah, the alpha.
Yeah, and your alpha which are your confidence level, correct?
All right.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I have had these courses years ago. I'm going way back. Statistics was not my jam, okay? It's one of those things where everybody kind of has to learn in science, but you never use it unless you become an actual scientist. So I never really had to use statistics, anything that I've learned. But
I'm struggling with that right now.
Yeah, t-values and tails and all that shit. We all learn this stuff, but you don't use it if you're not into the scientific fields, right? Would you agree?
Right.
Yeah. So I think the term null hypothesis, as it applies to, or people try to apply it to atheism, is really misplaced.
All right. Well, is there like a semantic equal of like, all right, like, where do we start on the question of like an entity that people can add definitions to? I would say like what?
I'm not sure I'm really following the question.
Like when you were telling me how theists define God, like
no, how I define God, and not theists. That's my personal.
How you define God, all right? Like, so you're creating this definition about something, but like, what should be my default like assumption before even hearing that?
Well, this isn't really not a default. Your position should be, let's evaluate the evidence for and against the claim. Because I just even wrote on Reddit, any evidence for the likelihood of something being true is contrary evidence to it being false, right? It's the confirming evidence for P is disconfirmational evidence for not P, right? They're coextensive. Any evidence for one is evidence against the other in some ways. And so when you're evaluating the God claim, you're also evaluating in some ways the claim there is no God. Because if you evaluated the evidence for God and you came to the conclusion there is a God, you've just confirmed the evidence against the existence of God in your mind.
To me, I think it's more interesting how did a human brain think of this God concept in the first place?
Okay, but
if that is a natural thing,
right? That's a different question.
And it's still just imaginary, right? Well, that's like the question I think is more interesting.
You can argue that. You can argue God's imaginary, right. But you're taking a position on it.
That's why I'm arguing that. Right. Yeah, that's why I'm an atheist agnostic.
Well, you're the one or the other in philosophy. They are mutually exclusive in philosophy. You can't be both.
Sure, but
yeah.
But
this is what I'm talking about in philosophy. When I have people tell me, "Oh, I'm an agnostic atheist," the first question I ask them is, "What the frick do you mean by it?" And second, can you put that in a logical schema? And the problem is that nobody that I've ever seen has ever put that in a logical schema that makes sense. Not once. I've asked hundreds of people. I have a logical schema that does work for it, but the problem is it just reduces down to, no, I know God exists. I believe God exists. I know God doesn't exist. I know God or I believe God doesn't exist. That's the only way that that system works. It cannot work in the lack of belief position because you're not keeping consistency in your model. There's an asymmetrical relationship there.
What are the reasons someone might have to say, I know God doesn't exist?
Okay. Let me get through these real quick. Hank says, and I'll answer that. What does Steve McRae have in common with Jay Dreier Twitter Spaces? I just started doing Twitter Spaces a couple weeks ago, man. And I you know what? I messaged Jay on something several months ago, and he never got back to me. I mentioned him again because he was on my show a few times. Okay, to answer your question though, you had asked me what would be evidence that God doesn't exist? Is that what you said?
Or like reasons that people would say they know God doesn't exist.
No, God doesn't exist. Okay, first of all, when you start talking about knowledge in the philosophical sense, you need to appeal to some type of theory of knowledge. Would you agree with that? Like justified true belief plus, causal theories of knowledge, pragmatic theories of knowledge, semantic theories of knowledge. There has to be some reason why you're claiming knowledge moreover than a dosastic state, which is a belief state, because knowledge in most theories is a subset of belief. By far, there are theories that may not apply, but they are so minor.
So you're saying like beliefs could be not knowledge or false or something.
A belief can be false, but knowledge cannot be. Under the most common theories in philosophy, which would be justified true belief plus, which is some kind of additional, right? There's three things for justified true belief. There's the belief has to be true. The person has to believe the proposition to be true, and they have to be justified to believe the proposition to be true. Justified true belief plus adds a fourth condition, which usually deals with possible world semantics called sensitivity or safety. Dealing with what would somebody believe given conditions in the next possible world over. They don't work that great, but they still try to minimize things like Giddy error cases or whatever.
Like a veil of ignorance thing?
No, it's not veil of ignorance. That actually I think was John Rawls, wasn't it?
Yeah. I have his book somewhere.
I knew his daughter, believe it or not, Elizabeth Rawls. We used to be friends on Facebook. And
really?
Yeah, Elizabeth Rawls. But anyways, tangential, name dropping. But if I usually I deal more like causal theories. I like the causal theory of knowledge, but you have to appeal to something. So when you're asking how does somebody justify knowledge, they have to appeal to one of those. So let me ask you this, me. If I literally have seen God, right? Hypothetically, assume it is the case. Assume it is true for the sake of the argument that I have seen God, and I believe in God.
Okay.
And I, under justified true belief, am justified to believe in God because I've seen him, right? And in direct causal theory, that's what you need. You need a direct causal relationship between what you're seeing and what your brain's processing. There's a relationship there in direct causal theory. And so would you agree that if that was the case, I'd be justified to claim I know God exists?
Can I ask if you saw it like visually through your eyes? Because sometimes like that's equated as kind of like a dream state, or
yeah, no, I get you, but no, physically, if God was sitting right here, or Jesus was sitting right here, going, "Hey, let's have a conversation. We're having some Johnny Walker Black together. Me and Jesus are hanging out,
yeah,
chilling over, Johnny Walker Black,
chilling over a couple glasses of his blood.
Yeah, it's cool.
You didn't call over like the 6 billion cameras on Earth.
Well, I mean, but again, would it matter? I'm not trying to persuade anybody else. I'm just saying, am I justified to know that to myself? If I say, "Hey, Steve, I know God exists,"
to you,
yeah,
like I would say, like people seem to see deities from 4,000 other religions.
But that's not what I said, though. I said, assume that is the case, though. Assume that it is true that I've seen God. Would I be justified to say that I know God exists?
Assuming it's true.
Yeah,
sure.
exactly.
Yes.
Right. Now, the question would be to the theist is, okay, if you're making that claim, which you can do, let's undermine the justifications for why you believe that. Were you high at the time? Were you drinking at the time? Did other people witness this?
Mm-hmm.
And you can say, look, you can have that claim. I'm not going to accept that you have knowledge to that. But whether you're justified or not, I can't weigh in on that because I don't have sufficient reasons to say that what happened to you wasn't God. Now, you could argue, I believe that that your claim to knowledge is false. Like I can say that I think that your claim to knowledge is false because I think you have insufficient reasons to do so, and that's how you would go about arguing that position. Yeah.
So I believe that you don't have justified true belief, but you believe you do have justified belief. So you
Exactly.
do?
Exactly. Well, to them they do, right? Because I wrote an essay called The Principle of Attribution and Retraction. And what I tried to explain to people was when we ascribe a belief, we're saying this is our epistemic disposition that some proposition is true. That's what we're saying, right? So if I say, if I believe that it's going to rain tomorrow, right? I am giving you my dosastic state. I'm telling you what I'm convinced of. And you can say, well, why are you convinced of this? Well, I'm looking at the weather patterns. I know meteorology. I've looked at the weather report. It's 100% chance for rain. I believe this is the case because I'm convinced because, look, it's almost starting to sprinkle. That's how you would justify that. Now, if I say I know it's going to rain, right? And then tomorrow comes and it never rained, I didn't have a false knowledge. What I had was a false claim to knowledge. My belief was false. I was wrong about my belief. I was convinced, but I was wrong about that. So my belief was false. But what I would do is, retract the claim to knowledge. I say, you know what? I retract that claim of knowledge. I was wrong for claiming knowledge that I didn't have. That's how you form a solid epistemological framework.
See, like in your example, I would be like, there's 100% chance, according to weather app, that could be wrong, that it's going to rain tomorrow. And I will be surprised if it doesn't rain tomorrow. And then it doesn't rain tomorrow. And I'm like, oh yeah, see, I was surprised.
Yeah, but so what? I mean, if it's 100% chance, would you say that you're convinced it's going to rain tomorrow? I would be. That's 100% chance.
Yeah. But I'm also saying like I don't even say that I'm convinced. I just say the exact reason.
Well, yeah, but if somebody says, "Hey, it's going to rain tomorrow," you say, "Yeah."
And then I'm not necessarily making, but then I'm not making a claim beyond the evidence. I'm just, oh, this is the evidence. You know, like when I talk to my wife about that, like, oh, there's an 80% chance it's going to rain tomorrow, and then I look at the time, and oh, it might be around 2 p.m. We should plan our day differently, and so it's like I feel like I'm never hitting the point of knowledge. I'm hitting some confidence value.
No, I agree. I agree.
Where the risk outweighs the cost.
The problem is that when you make a claim like I know it's going to rain tomorrow, I don't see I can justify that based on future contingencies, right? Because future contingencies haven't have a truth maker that has come about yet. And in the correspondence theory of truth, Arnold Raw loves this one. He doesn't fully understand it, but there's something called the correspondence theory of truth, which means that if there's a truth maker that exists ontologically that makes some proposition true. And there has been many works based on they call the future wars. Future war, if I say some war is going to happen or not, what's the truth maker? Well, there isn't a truth maker. It's a whole area of philosophy on future contingencies. And so I argue it'd be very difficult to justify knowledge on certain propositions. But if it's just justified true belief, and I say, look, I know it's going to rain tomorrow because I know meteorology, and there's 100% chance in my mind it's going to rain, you could be justified for that. You can justify that. You can say, look, I'm an expert in this. I know meteorology. I know it's going to rain tomorrow because this has to happen. There's so much moisture. There's physics. It's going to reach a temperature. It has no choice but to rain. You could argue that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And if you're wrong,
like beyond the 100% even. You're right.
Well, no, not just beyond. I don't think any meteorologist is going to ever say certainty, right?
Yeah, but But they could say like there's so many factors in this that like our models are basic and they only capture these 5 metrics.
Correct.
But when I look at all 20 metrics, it's like, it's a hurricane, right?
Yeah.
And like,
well, okay, I'll give you an
oh,
example.
I'm in the eye of the hurricane. It's not raining.
I'll give you an example. Let's say something I just read not too long ago, like a coronal mass ejection. If a coronal mass ejection was ejected from the sun, and some physicists did all the calculations and saw that it was going to hit us directly. No question about it. The physics is he's an expert. And he says, look, I know this is going to happen. Well, why is there justification for that? Because he's an expert in his field and he's did the physics. That's his justification. Well, what happens if something else comes out of the universe and just swipes that cosmic
second opinion? Oh, yeah.
But if these are bare possibilities, right? But if something was to happen where the CMB, coronal mass ejection didn't hit us, if it for some reason dissipated or aliens came down and saved us from it, then you just have a retraction of that claim of knowledge. You would just say, look, knowledge cannot be false, and so You can say I believed I was justified, but my claim to knowledge was incorrect. I didn't, because knowledge has to be true. So I can't say that the coronal mass ejection will hit us as knowledge because it's already been demonstrated to be false, and so you can't have false knowledge. You can say I thought it was I was justified at the time. I was justified to have a claim to knowledge, but my knowledge wasn't actually true because there's no such thing as false knowledge.
So
that makes sense.
So you're just being like a real stickler that we can only believe that there is no God, and we can't know that there is no God.
I believe that. Yeah, I don't think anybody has knowledge
until we produce what, like,
I don't know.
Like,
I don't think
I don't know either. That's the problem. That's the problem. We don't know what it would actually take to be a God.
I would argue that individuals can believe that they're justified to the claim of knowledge, but it would be if somebody can demonstrate their knowledge is true, then God exists, right? If I knew, think about this, Meat. Again, think as a hypothetical. Your name's Meat.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. I'm calling you Meat because that's just what it comes up, so people know they can see your name on the YouTube video. But if I say, where was I going to go with that? Assume that I know God exists. Assume that, then it is a fact that God exists. Correct? Do you see why there's an implication there?
Assume that God exists.
Assume that I know God exists. Assume that I know God exists. Implies by logical entailment.
Can't be false.
Well, hang on. Let me finish. Assume this. If I know God exists is true, therefore God must be true. It is a factual statement. If I know God exists, God has to exist. That is a factual statement. Yeah. Correct? Okay, right. I've had atheists argue that though, because they're not understanding basic philosophy. And they don't understand that. This is what I'm saying by, atheism is a belief there's no God. I deal with the level of atheists that wouldn't even understand what the hell I just said. You did, right? But I have atheists all the time going, that's stupid. Steve's an idiot. No, it absolutely makes sense to somebody who understands philosophy.
Yeah.
But anyways.
I'm a programmer, so,
Yeah. Well, okay, let me run you by this one.
Conditional logic a lot.
An atheist told me this the other day, and I would say that this is probably the dumbest retort I've ever had in my entire life. I've heard versions of it, but this was more specific, but it basically went along the lines of, if you have any argument that starts with the word if, it is invalid.
Yeah.
Wrap your head around that. Because one is self-refuting, obviously. It's self-refuting. And second, all conditional arguments start with if. That's nothing to do.
I would maybe use when to obfuscate it a bit.
Yeah. But that's how dumb I deal with it. Poggy says, what do you mean by no? I mean, satisfies the criteria. It satisfies the criteria for justified true belief. That's the simplest way. I think most people, when they talk about knowledge and philosophy, will use that definition, use those criteria. And those are a little bit more prescriptive, by the way, because you have criteria, right? These are prescriptive criteria. In order to have justified true belief, you have to meet 3 necessary criteria to have sufficiency. That's a little bit more prescriptive. Would you agree? Yes, because I'm prescribing you must have these 3 conditions in order to be able to claim knowledge. Poggy says, Poggy, you have Twitter, by the way. Where are you? He says, if you feel you have knowledge, doesn't that mean you do? That doesn't mean you do, right? Yeah, I've already explained. You can't have false knowledge. You can have false belief. Yeah. Yes, I see you, independent Muslim. I follow you. You don't have to. I don't have to invite you. I follow you, don't I? I invited you.
It's similar to what I said. Probably the first or second stream I was able to talk in. If you have something that is 100% true, then it's a fact. If you have something that is only 80% true, well, what's true about it is what's fact, and what's not true about it is either opinion or just false.
Right, exactly. And here's the thing, though. And by the way, if you're a listener and I invited you and it's not working, refresh. Just exit and come back in. I found out that fixes it. Poggy's busy. But yeah, you're exactly right. And this is what I'm saying. When somebody tells me that I'm wrong, there's an objective fact of the matter that I can say, look, this is how it is in philosophy by the academic standards. This is the peer-reviewed papers. These are people that write the materials. If you want to say that they're wrong, you need to change the academic understanding, you need to write your own papers. But there's an objective fact of the matter to be had. If I say the overwhelming understanding of atheism is the belief there's no God in academia, you can demonstrate that objectively. You can look at all the papers ever written and say in theory, how many papers use it in this way. And I would say that 99% of them do. And that would objectively prove your case, right? Demonstrate your case. Which, by the way, I forgot about the falsification thing. Poggy and I were talking about this the other day in meet. I don't see a good reason to have falsification for beliefs. I mean, sure, it's fine, but it's not necessary. Falsificationism is something that Popper developed an idea for scientific theories, for a robust scientific theory that had theoretical virtues like simplicity and fidelity and parsimonious and things of that nature. Explanatory values. These are all theoretical virtues. But for a belief, I don't give a crap if something's falsifiable or not. Russell's teapot, not falsifiable. That's why he created it. In practicality, it's not falsifiable. But I believe there's no teapot. Russell never wasn't arguing, just we should suspend judgment on it.
Yeah, but there's like a good logical thing there. Like teapots are made on Earth, and we would have to fly them somehow there, and we can look at every space thing that's gone into space, except for some spy satellites. But
and we would know
even then, you'd be like, you'd have to see something move there, right? So like short of teleportation, which is impossible, it's like.
Well, I wouldn't say it's impossible, but we haven't been able to do it yet.
According, so far, like
I mean,
we're
again,
I guess agnostic about that too, right?
I again, the word impossible in science means something kind of different in philosophy, right? I mean, I can say it's impossible to go faster than the speed of light, but there's nothing logically impossible about that in physics. In physics, it's logically possible to go faster than the speed of light, but the universe isn't like that. And the independent Muslim, I invited you. If you're not able to speak, you have to go out of the hangout and then come back in. This is what I said. Right. I see your message.
You also have to accept that you want to talk.
Yeah, no, he's been in before, so he knows how to do it. But so Big Nick says atheist must be inconsistent. A house divided cannot stand. You cannot serve two masters. Okay, well, theism must be inconsistent because there's 40,000 denominations. Right? Theism is inconsistent using that argument.
Well, Christianity
is inconsistent because how many different versions of Christianity are there? If you want to use that.
Well, 40,000. That's like the usual number. But I mean, 4,200 is usually like a religion number.
Oh, he exited and I have to prove him.
Well, at least the Roman Empire was consistent.
Is it true men think about the Roman Empire like 5 times an hour or something like that? I don't know.
7 times every 7
seconds. Yeah, is that what it was?
Every 7 seconds, someone brings up the Roman Empire. That was our second.
I still I gotta wrap my head around them.
My wife asked me that question about the Roman Empire.
Poggy says I try to be precise in my language as much as possible, like Steve, and that's good. You should. I try to be precise, and meet as a nutritionist or as a scientist. Don't you think it matters words? If I was to say, look, I'll put my nutritionist hat on. Okay, so you have carbohydrates, you have fats, and you have sugars, and you have proteins, and you have all these different things that are good for you, right? But as I said, hey, carbohydrates include sugars, but they also include fats. You'd be like,
no.
You would be like, no, right, because that's a lipid, right? You'd be like, no, of course carbohydrates don't include fats. And I'd be like, well, I'm using the different definition. I'm using some other definition here. You'd be like, no, but that's not the definition used in nutrition. Well, yeah, but you're just a nutritionist. You're just elitist. You're just an ivory tower nutritionist. What's the difference between that and philosophy that I talk about?
The difference between my truth and the truth is the difference. Is if you have something that is my truth, okay, it's something that you wholeheartedly believe without the shadow of a doubt, similar to how people view religion. And if you believe in the truth, well, then you believe in facts above everything else.
Yes, I think so. But here's the thing: I'm claiming. Hang on, I claim as the fact that the standard usage of the term atheism is understood in academia and philosophy as the belief there's no God. That I'm claiming as a fact. That is something that could be shown and demonstrated. So my point is, why are these atheists saying that's wrong? We all know they're wrong. But why aren't there more people standing up against that? Because they're wrong. They're putting out misinformation.
How about this? I could say I'm agnostic to the philosophical definitions of God, but I'm an atheist.
Oh, you mean to the okay? I see what you're saying. So if I posited, like the Christian
like the
God,
immaterial mind,
okay, or more specifically, how about
creator
the
of the universe
savior
thing,
of mankind?
whatever.
You're agnostic toward the savior of
Sure,
mankind,
sure.
or you believe that's well? You already said that all gods are bullshit. So
No. I'm saying the other way around. The philosophical, like classical theist thing. Like I could be agnostic about that because, like, even that is just one conception. There's there's hundreds of other slight variations
right.
on that.
You could,
right?
You could. But here's the thing.
So I could say I'm agnostic to all of those. However, I'm like agnostic or like Gnostic. Like, I know that all the stories are written by people and people can lie. So that's
Right.
like a more natural parsimonious explanation. And therefore, like, I could just say like, oh yeah, all the gods that people have made up are wrong. But if there's some other thing out there, well, people haven't actually identified it yet. Like, and how would we find the science?
Well, that's what I'm asking you. I mean,
to understand that thing, and then it's like, oh well, there's no science to understand it. It's all philosophical anyway.
Correct.
So I'm like, okay, it's just always going to be philosophical, and I'll always have to be agnostic about
I don't think
that.
so. I think you have the atheist position.
Always be.
You're not agnostic on anything. You already have determined all gods, not the the ones you've heard, all gods, that the universe doesn't have any gods. You've already made that claim. The universe is devoid of gods.
Well, no. Like, I don't think. Like, I think all that is philosophical. Like, the universe was created out of an eggshell, or like infinite eggshells all the way down.
Yeah.
But
you believe that's false, though, right?
Well, yeah, but I'm saying, like, to me, like what convinces me to be passionate about all this is like that people can create these imaginary stories, like all the billions of fiction books out there. People had like the ability to imagine them, and then they just said, oh yeah, by the way, I imagined it. And the only difference with like the gods that you're trying to like add all this special meaning to is just that the people say they didn't imagine it, or their imagination was from that thing. So like I don't really care to get into the philosophical thing, because you can have 10,000 permutations, right?
Yeah. By the way, real quick, Muslim,
when it comes to like
if you want to take the mic, just talk. I mean, this is not a formal hangout. If you want to speak, just speak. Muslim, can you hear me?
I like waffles.
I like waffles too, actually.
Okay.
Yeah. But go ahead. I'm just going to interrupt you.
It still just says listener for him.
I do not. Why he's left and came back in? He said I didn't see that, but yeah. Just talk. I mean, this is an open hangout. I'm not strict on my Twitter Spaces, unless it's having a more formal session. So go ahead, Muslim. But anyways, Meat, you were saying. I know, and by the way, I know what you're saying, Meat. But here's the thing. Your position as an atheist, that there is no independent mind that exists that created the universe. You believe that. I mean, I assume you hold a naturalism, right? Methodological naturalism, at least.
Yeah,
but you hold to ontological naturalism. Adding a mind doesn't explain anything, because to me, like, a mind is an evolved thing that takes billions of years to get to. So then, like, you're just throwing in, okay, how do we explain that mind? But you're not agnostic on anything. You're an atheist on all those you're an atheist because you believe that the universe was not created by some being. That makes you an atheist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think adding a being explains anything.
Yeah, well, I don't hold that position, so why would I have the same label? Why would I ever want to be called an atheist when I don't have the same position as you?
Well, like, what do you think adding a god would?
It's absolutely irrelevant.
Add to that.
It's irrelevant. I mean, my justifications are irrelevant to my stating to you that this is my position. My position is that I don't hold the belief that there's absolutely, in my mind. Well, I would say I don't want to use absolutely. I criticize people for that. My belief state is that I don't have that particular belief that the universe wasn't created by a god. You have that belief. That's not part of my belief state, and so I'm just telling you what my belief state is, which means I'm agnostic.
Well, what do you like? You just don't know what created the universe?
Well, nobody does, but that's kind of a throwaway sentence, right? No, nobody knows.
Right, I know,
but
but
knowledge is relevant.
what do you believe?
Oh, I haven't, you know, when you ask like what I believe the Big Bang, right? I believe that they're, you know, quantum fluctuation.
Right, but like what caused the Big Bang?
If we knew that, then we wouldn't be having these discussions.
Right, I'm asking what you believe though.
I don't know what caused. I mean, the best I can say, if I had to take a guess, something along the quantum fluctuations had a symmetry breaking, where on the sombrero model you had a metastable false vacuum where you would reach a lower state of potential. What caused that? Which is the main question: is what caused that instability to trigger that quantum fluctuation to go to a lower energy state? Don't know. That cause is what theists, you know, have posited is God, right? If they're relating
Right.
it to science, yeah.
So you're agnostic on that, right?
Correct. And that's how I define, you know, God. I mean, because I'm agnostic on that proposition, that it was some intentional
Because that's what theists are defining as
Correct.
God. I
Yeah.
see.
Yeah.
Okay.
My positions
See,
are far
like,
more nuanced and well
see-
thought out. Would you say than most people meet?
See, like, yeah, I get, but that's also the thing I'm trying to say is like that philosophical what created the universe idea is what you're
Yes.
talking about. Whereas I want to talk about like how did these stories get
Oh,
here?
absolutely.
Right?
Those are great topics too, but it's not what I'm arguing. Yes, go ahead, Muslim. I see your hand. I've invited you. I don't know what else to do. It's on your end and not mine.
You have to accept somehow.
I've invited people
there's
can see on the
some,
video
like,
that I've
okay
invited more than
button.
once. They can actually see me going to it. And I'm inviting
yeah.
Poggy's busy, but I'm inviting him anyways. But I'm inviting you. You see it on the video.
What I think there might be a maximum amount
Nope.
of people have to speak at one
Nope.
time.
Nope. I don't think so.
Really?
No. I want Creationist Translation to come up here because I haven't talked to that dude in shit ton of time, man.
I'd love to hear from him.
Yeah. I don't. He's wait. Dude, he says I'm a listener. You need to change my status to speaker. So I would love to join the conversation. I literally have done that,
Yeah.
Muslim, more than once. I'm telling you, I have. You can see it on the video. I'm literally streaming this to YouTube.
Man, he's spamming the emoji.
It's a jihad.
I'm not messing with you, brother. I have literally gone. You can see it on the video. Ask my live chat right now. Do you not see me going on the live chat to invite co-host? Not co-hosts, but listeners. And I'm going here. And I'm going invite to speak. Invite to speak. Everybody.
I know how frustrating it could be. I know how frustrating it could be from personal experience because of the personal experience I can get.
Yeah. Let me. Hang on. You know,
do this.
Oh my goodness. One second. I might have an idea, but give me a second here.
Couldn't he join the StreamYard on the YouTube?
What do you mean? Oh yeah. I'm sorry. He could, but the problem is that the people here wouldn't be able to see him. But
yeah,
I want to check something real quick. Maybe it might be on my end, but I think. Give me 1 second, brother. Because I did have it set for if I follow you, which I thought I follow you.
Wait, is that what
It could be. I don't know.
You didn't follow me, right?
But I don't. But but that doesn't matter if I invite somebody to speak. That should override that, right? I have to follow you for you to be able to come up without me inviting you. But it shouldn't prevent somebody from coming up if I invite them, right?
Oh, you did follow me, and then because I think I don't know if I asked.
Yeah, I'm following you, independent Muslim.
Okay.
Yeah, it says right here, following you.
See, when I first
and KK, he's thumbing down too.
They gave me the choice.
I don't follow you, KK, but I did invite you. Just message me on Twitter. Message me on Twitter if you KK. Poggy's saying the same thing. Okay, you know what it is? Okay, I'll do this, and I'll fix this. I'm gonna exit and come back in. Okay. So I'm gonna exit this. I'm coming back in. He's just Poggy the same thing. Okay, now I see requested here, and I'm going to prove.
Because I'd like to test the theory of the speaker.
That fixed it, I guess. I don't know. Twitter's buggy, man.
Oh my God! You're technically challenged. You just don't know how to use the software.
I literally had to exit and come back in. You saw that, right? That's a Twitter bug.
Thank you, Steve.
That's a Twitter bug. That's not a feature. That's a bug.
Steve, you're muted.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You need to approve. You need to approve each speaker individually. It doesn't matter whether you invite them. It doesn't matter if you invite them. It doesn't matter if you're friends with them. It doesn't matter with anything. Each one individually.
Indy, listen to me before you rant. I literally had to exit the Hangout and come back in because it's a Twitter bug. It had nothing to do. When you asked to be invited, that didn't show up for me. When I exited and came back in, then it said invited to Poggy and you. So it's a bug on Twitter and nothing to do with my fucking understanding of Twitter Spaces. It is a fact that you have to exit it and come back in because Twitter Spaces sucks. Does everybody understand this now? Cool. Now,
can I speak? Can I?
Now
yeah, huff more copium, buddy.
So now do you understand that it wasn't me? It was the fact that it wasn't even showing up as request. I had to exit and come back in like I asked.
Yeah.
All right. Good.
Maybe it was a god doing it,
Ooh. All right. So now everybody's happy.
But I want to ask a question. Do you go to a space where you say accept my request, not you inviting me, you accept my request? Because when you send me an invitation, it's not accepting my request.
Something relevant.
Dude, what are you not understanding about this?
Okay, so it's a bug in Twitter. That's what you think?
I know so. I literally had to leave and come back in where it said invite request.
It happened twice with you only. Never happened in my entire 3-4 year on Twitter.
My live chat. Am I lying here? Does it not? When I left, hang on.
The thing is, it was showing a screen.
Hang on. When I left and I came back in, and then it said invitation request. It requested 1, requested 2. Correct? The outside saw this. Did they not? Now I'm going to unmute. Okay.
Now, when you say stuff like "I follow you," but I follow you, I don't understand why you can't speak. I follow you. That means it's like you're saying the tree is green. Why aren't you eating? It has no relationship.
Oh my God.
Just the idea that we follow each other doesn't give.
Muslim. I have set the Hangout to. There's 3 things you can set it to: open to everybody, those who follow, or those you invite only. I set this Hangout to those I follow, that they didn't have to request to come up. They can just come up. But it wasn't working like that. Do you understand that? So I don't know what the hell.
Yes, I do. And the bug is in that option only. Yes, because that if you continue to do that, that's where the bug is.
Okay.
Now, I agree with you.
It's more than that. I didn't see any requests to join until I exited the Twitter space and came back in. Do you get that?
Yes, but it only happened with you before. That's why I was assuming that it's something.
No,
but it's the option that you're using, probably.
I've seen other people have that problem before. They've said
they probably set the same option that you give the mic automatically to who you ever follow.
Could be.
Maybe that's that option. Yeah.
All right. So have we gone past that now? Does that everybody?
Yes. Thank you so much. It was so hard. It was so hard to be gagged while you guys are talking, and I want to join in, and I just can't.
But see, can the outside chat see now? Like Hank here. See how it says approve, deny, which I'm gonna hit deny because hey, screw Hank. Just kidding. This wasn't coming up for me before. The outside chat can see this. This is what I'm saying. I tell people facts, and then they say shit on me because they're not listening to what I'm saying, and it's frustrating. Welcome to my world.
I do know.
Because people expect software to be perfect, like a god.
But the solution at the end was in your hand. You had to leave and come back.
Correct, which is
not me.
But that's no.
You wanted the opportunity to speak for
listen to me. There have been other times where I didn't have to leave. The other person had to leave. I didn't ever leave. They just left and came back and worked fine. But I had that open for open all that time. All right, but anyways, can we get back to the topic?
I had a question. You said if you believe there's a God, then there is a God.
Yes.
Is that what you said?
No. I said if I know there's a God, there's a God. Not if I believe.
Yeah, I was asking the same question.
Well, what's the difference between I know or I believe?
Justified through belief. No, they're not. Just knowledge is a subset of belief.
What do you mean by justified true belief?
What do I mean by what?
Justified true belief. What do you mean by justified? What do you mean by true? I understand belief, but what do you mean by justified and true?
I literally explained that. The analysis of knowledge. Wait, can I finish? Can I answer the question? In the analysis, the theory of justified true belief means if you meet 3 conditions, you're justified to make a knowledge claim that you believe the proposition is true, the proposition is true, and you're justified true. That's justified true belief theory.
I don't see how that gets you to the actual fact of the matter, though.
It doesn't matter. If you meet those criteria, you can claim knowledge.
No. I'm not saying you can't claim knowledge. I agree with you in that situation. You can claim knowledge. What I'm saying is I don't know how you could say, therefore, the actual fact
that's
is
a completely different question.
Like my knowledge is correct.
Yeah, but that's a completely different question.
You said earlier.
No. What I said was, if it is the case,
misunderstood.
Listen carefully. If it is the case that I do know God exists, God must exist by necessary logical entailment of justified true belief.
That's what I was asking. Yeah. Okay. I was trying to clarify. Do you mean if it is the case that I'm claiming knowledge, or if it is the case that my knowledge is correct? In which case, it's like A equals A. It's just it's inherently obvious.
Right. It's actually, it's funny, and people are gonna fucking lose their shit on this, but that's actually, believe it or not, a actual transcendental argument. Believe it or not, that actually is a transcendental. You see, you get it, but other people will go like, "What the fuck you talking about, Steve?" And by the way, JCO, come on up, buddy. Oh, I see. Okay, you're on speaker. I'm gonna turn the mic over to JCO in a second. And then,
so I had a follow-up question.
Okay, but can I finish where I was going with that? With the transcendental?
Sure. Okay. Please do.
All right. So a transcendental argument goes along the lines of, if X is a necessary precondition for Y, and Y is true, then by transcendental argumentation, X must be true. And so if I meet the conditions for knowledge, and one of them is that the proposition has to be, if the proposition is true, then it has to follow that God exists because of transcendental argumentation. That is the case that I know God exists. Now, of course, that's just basic logic, right? It's not proving anything. It's just recognizing that since knowledge cannot be false, if it is the case that I know something to be true, it has to be true. Right, exactly. See, you get it. Yeah. But here's the thing, Poggy, the atheist. I got
it too.
Well, you're not a Reddit atheist. The Reddit atheist and the online atheist from the Atheist Experience are fucking stupid. I don't know how else to put it. They're literally incompetent.
I'm a Reddit atheist, though.
Yeah.
Oh, I know how to put it, but I kind of called them the atheist cult of Austin, so it's a cult.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Lactheism I think has gotten very cultish lately. But JCO, how are you, dude?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh shoot. Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Man, you've been taking the torch on this, and you're a theist, but you've been taking the torch with my arguments and running them with them. Amazing, man. You actually understand this shit. Cool.
Now I tell when I first made the first video, I got so many different comments. Then each video I get like a 10%, like 20% dislike, then 15% dislike, then 10% dislike. Okay,
it's getting. Oh, so people are coming around.
Oh shoot! I mean, you got most
because
people
look,
around. No.
We got atheists in here, and they're all in agreement with me as far as the basic stuff. I mean, so it's not like it's that unheard of. It's this that educated atheists are going to know more about atheism than your average atheist experience Reddit atheist. They're not going to understand atheism.
Yeah, I tell people all the time, like every time I make these videos, I tell people all the time, I'm not trying to like convince you there's a God right now. I'm not trying to like say like only follow like this position right here, but it's like
right.
It's funny though. Some of the comments are hilarious though, but it's something different.
They're getting better. But hey, look, any one of them they can message me on it if they really want to know the specificities. I think even Floyd FP here is extremely knowledgeable on this kind of stuff. I think that, hey Floyd, would you say that as a layperson, I'm probably one of the best people to address these kind of questions for atheism for the lay community, Floyd? I mean, if not, I don't know who's better, and I'm not trying to like sound egotistical, but I've been doing this 10 years. I think that I guess I have a layperson's expertise in this subject.
Let's just say you do better than Matt Dillahunty.
Well, that's not meeting much. Yeah, that's not. Yeah.
It's a low bar, but it's an important bar.
Yeah. All right. And by the way, don't need to raise your hand. Just go ahead and talk. But let's get to KK first, and then independent.
Yeah.
Let's get to KK first because he hasn't said anything. Hi, KK.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm okay. How about you?
I'm getting caffeinated.
Yeah, so I want to say that with my own experience talking to atheists, I always start off with saying, what do you mean by that? Do you believe in no God, or do you simply want to believe? That being said, I still don't see any significant reason for promoting the definition atheism is a lack of belief, because by definition of lack of belief, you can also contradict the definition of the belief in no, because you can lack the belief in no, which contradicts belief in no and lack in belief.
Okay, let me try to follow this.
Does that make sense?
Well, kind of. If you lack knowledge, right? You're just saying that you don't have the sufficiency conditions for knowledge, right? That's all. If you lack knowledge, but if you lack a belief, you can't have knowledge, right? I can't say that I lack a belief in P, but I know P. There would be a contradiction there, an epistemic contradiction, right? You have to have belief to have knowledge. Knowledge is a subset of belief. But I think you're right that it makes no sense to have something in negation. And I've always used the example: if I ask you, KK, hey, what do you want for dinner? And you say you don't want duck, it's not telling me what you want for dinner. It's not telling me you want chicken or pork or beef or whatever. Pasta. It's not telling me anything. And I think atheists that are using lack of belief are basically philosophically dishonest because they're not telling anybody their position.
I don't think that's how those conversations go.
But they're not telling anybody what their position is. She just said that she has to ask, what do you mean by atheist, right?
No, for me, that's no. That's not what they were talking about. They were talking about okay, because I already had the conversation with them, so I already understood. But they were talking about not believing that there is a God is contradictory to belief there is no God, and no, that's not contradictory.
No,
yeah, I think you might have misunderstood my point there. Because I was saying that I said that a lack of belief contradicts a belief in no.
A lack of belief is not a position. It's a lack belief in what?
Yeah, it's not really a position.
Just in general.
Like all belief in anything?
No, lack of belief God exists.
It's just
lack
a lack
of
belief.
belief.
Just a lack of belief.
Right, but lack of belief in God exists is not really a position.
Because nobody's defining it lack of belief. Yeah.
Because the reason it's not a position is because it's ambiguous, right? It is not telling you what your position on the proposition actually is. It's saying I have no position, is what it's, which is a second order position, but it's not a direct order position, right? When you say something that I lack a belief in God, you're just telling them you have a second order belief that you're not convinced that God exists. That's all you're telling them. You're not. That's not a position on the proposition. That's an epistemic disposition. A proposition for a direct answer is going to be the proposition is true or the proposition is false. Having no position either way is a second order position. That's all. But it's not telling you what your actual position is on direct position is. That's all.
Yes, and my only point was it's not pragmatic and relevant to me, because when I have conversations with people, I'm either having a conversation with someone who believes P or believes not P. I never have a conversation with both people at the same time. So if somebody says, I believe P, I'm going to say, can you demonstrate that? And if they say yes, I'm going to say, so go ahead, and then I'll address whatever they say.
Or they can argue
whether or not I believe not P is kind of irrelevant, because I'm not trying to demonstrate not P to them.
Right. That's your epistemology. That's your straight epistemology stuff, right? That's
yes, pretty much.
I mean, you don't do it, but
I agree with everything Steve said at the philosophical level. It's just not at the pragmatic level,
which is a different argument. Yeah, I mean, I could argue it is a different argument. I think my version is more pragmatic, but that's a different argument.
You probably could,
I can argue a lot. People haven't noticed.
Well, the thing is, I actually come around to your side now in the sense that I do believe, in fact, from the definitions, believe not P. I just don't see it as a relevant part of the conversation when somebody says, I believe P, because my argument's going to be, I don't believe you.
Yeah,
Can you demonstrate?
That's perfectly fine. But at least you're not in the position like before you even knew me and you first talked to me. You weren't in the position. Hey, Steve's completely wrong on philosophy and logic, as I get from stupid atheists out there. They're just. I mean, where do you go with somebody who says if you start an argument with if, it's invalid?
You can't even figure out Twitter. You fool.
Oh, shots fucking fired. That's funny.
Ow!
Ow! Ow! That hurts, man. Like
Steve,
Go ahead.
Steve, I have a question.
Well, I had a question before that.
After that burn, Steve? Jesus.
Dude, that's gonna take me a while to get over, man. I'm not any therapy now. Somebody was waiting for the question first. Let's try to get to them first.
Yeah, I had a question for you. So if you said if I have the knowledge that God exists, then God must exist. Right. That was the premise, and I agree with you. Now, how do you move from I believe there is a God to I know there is a God?
I've already answered that question. Though. What was the answer?
No.
I've literally already answered that.
I'm asking for, but you don't know there's you don't know there's a God, right? Do you know there's a God? Okay, so you're
Also
right
don't
now
know what
standing.
evidence
Yeah. So you're
implies
right
a
now
God.
standing, and you're not even standing that you believe there is a God.
Correct.
But let me ask you something: if somebody if to go to the I know or I believe, would it be, for example, me getting the moon to disappear or the sun to disappear, or can I do something? Can something be physical that you witness by somebody who's telling you, I'm doing this to prove to you that there's a God?
Okay,
It's like a miracle. Would that convince
Okay,
you?
so that's a different question.
Would that take you to the belief
Okay,
state?
so let me answer that question, because
not for
the
me.
question you were asking before was, how do you get from belief to knowledge, which Poggy asked, similar, and I was like, justify true belief. That's how you get there, right? But you're asking me what would convince me that there is a God, or what would convince me that there isn't a God?
No, that there is a God. Like if you're not at the belief state, you're agnostic. So you don't have a belief, right?
If God Himself sat down and had a conversation with me, took me up to heaven, and I definitely could not, wasn't on taking any indica, I wasn't drinking. It actually happened, and I think it'd be very convincing. Yeah. Just like if aliens,
but how would you know it's
As long
God?
as it's
How would you know it's God? I mean, but how would you know ultimately it's God? It could be some other being.
So what? If aliens,
you could be
if aliens came down and took me to another planet, I'd be like, hey, I've been on another planet. Well, how do you know you're on another planet? Because I was on another planet. Because I was there. How do you know that? Because I was there. That's
no. We're talking to the creator of the universe. Like if somebody's faking the creator, what I'm trying to say is, would you be able to know a fake?
I want to answer this.
A fake God?
No.
Like if an alien is faking that he's God and he's the creator, how would you be able to distinguish?
At that point, I wouldn't care.
Answer
I would be like,
I actually have a point for this.
Okay, but let me finish. I would be like, I'm convinced there's a God, and if I'm mistaken, if it wasn't a God, it was some alien doing it, I would just change my belief. So what? But if I'm talking to a deity.
No. I'm trying to find out what makes you believe. That's what I'm trying to say. What would be the evidence that
God talking to me,
that you just hang out with God and shows you around heaven?
Yeah, I'd do it.
Yeah, but what if that is a fake? Because you don't know what heaven is, and you don't know who God is, and anybody can.
Once I find out it's fake, I change my belief back to where it was before. I just change my belief. We all do belief revisionism.
But you said we started the argument that if you know,
you're not talking about knowing. You're talking about belief now. You just went from knowledge.
Well, if you hang out with God, are you in the know or the belief?
Both. You can't have one without. You can't.
Okay, so if you're exactly, so if you're in the know, then you're saying that what you know is true when it's in reality he's faking it. He's fooling you, and he's really not the God, because you cannot know. But you know,
I retract my listen.
Okay.
Because I see a flaw in the logic. I don't know if this is.
I literally wrote the essay, The Principle of Attribution and Retraction on the Great Debate Community. Go check it out, guys. The Great Debate, www.greatdebateCommunity.com. There's an essay on there called The Principle of Attribution and Retraction, where I explain this very thing. I would retract my claim to knowledge. I would say, look, I thought I was justified to claim knowledge. I wasn't. My knowledge, since knowledge cannot be false, I retract that claim. I no longer claim that I have that knowledge. I don't have that knowledge, and my belief was false. That's belief revisionism. That's how a good, solid epistemology would be understood. This is one of the criticisms I even had about street epistemology back in the day that I was talking to Mead about, because they weren't talking about philosophical epistemology. They were using epistemology in a very specific, precise way that really wasn't used in philosophy. And I think, my criticism was they're misleading people a little bit about that.
And I'm actually with Matt D on the way he phrases it, which is I'm not necessarily sure what would convince me that there's a God, but if there is a God that has sufficient power to do something about it and knowledge, he would know what would convince me.
I don't think Matt's wrong on that either.
Yeah, that's why I think he's.
I mean, his reasoning follows rationally, right? And I hate to give Matt credit, obviously, but I mean, I think Matt's rationale is correct on that.
Okay.
Yeah. How could it not be, right?
He's right on a few things.
Yeah, but I mean, he's right though. I mean, if God really wanted to convince me, he would know how to do it. He could beam that information in my head. I go, so go ahead, Muslim.
Yeah.
Independent Muslim.
Well, no, I mean, that was it, because I was trying to find out how do you jump from an agnostic to a believer. For me, I made that jump, but I mean, it took the Quran. I read the Quran and I was convinced by it.
I am convinced the Quran's false.
Yeah,
I don't think anything in the Quran couldn't have been made up or imagined.
Yeah, your reasons are garbage.
Christian again.
They were good enough for me, to tell you the truth.
But I mean, like I said,
Well, good enough for you. Maybe you have a really terrible
bar.
epistemology.
I would by far at least accept some form of Christianity over what Islam.
No,
I wouldn't,
would,
but
Yeah.
I would just say Christianity is better and longer and probably has committed more problems,
But anyways,
but has
That would
had
still be a
longer
fallacy.
time to reform itself and create new offshoots.
I'm improving these requests, by the way. So I mean, so there you go. Whoever was, I didn't even see who it was. I just approved.
So Steve, I was wondering, like, should I just say, like, I believe that religion should, like, are capable of being made up by people, and that all the permutations of God definitions I can be agnostic about?
Well, why would you choose that though? Right. If I look, if you're running an a prior argument about priors, and you say, look, every single explanation we've ever had that was explained by a God, we found a scientific explanation for. You could argue that by priors is that why would you posit a God to explain something if every single time we've found an alternative explanation that explains things better? You can say, look, there's no God that explains anything better.
Right.
I believe that there isn't a God that explains something better. But if you can show that God explains something better, I'll change my belief. There you go. Simple as that. And by the way, somebody just wrote me this. This is nice. Somebody just wrote me this. They said, and this is Reddit. They said, hey, man or person, I appreciate the formal approach. Super well done and explained. This is great to see like this. And see, so I do get some people that appreciate my well thought out stuff, because when I have people tell me, oh, Steve, you're an idiot, you don't think about this stuff, you don't know what you're talking about, it's like, Jesus, you just like, you're the kind of person that tells me an argument is invalid because it starts with if. It's like, okay, really?
Which Reddit did you post to? Agnostic?
Debate it, no, / debate an atheist. I post a lot because they don't care. Their their mods are like, hey, do your thing, man. As long as you follow the rules. I was told by the mods specifically, as long as you follow the rules, we're not going to boot you. Because when I first got there, you don't know all the rules, so I did have some things removed, and I asked about it. They're like, yeah, it's just to minimize the white noise kind of stuff, right? But they're like, look, as long as you're trying, we're not going to boot you, and so I haven't had a problem. No, but nothing's been removed for weeks, so they know their rules very well now. I was booted from our atheism, which is our atheism is they're idiots. Which is funny. I didn't post in there for 6 years, so I don't care that I got booted from there. I didn't know I was even still in there. I thought I got booted 6 years ago. But oh my God, I'm glad that I checked it out, because they've gotten worse. Our atheism is the cult of atheism. It is the religion of atheism. They are religious. Sorry, but they are religious.
It's just the timeline, right?
I don't really like Reddit for much of anything.
I don't blame you.
Really? I mod like 50 of my own subreddits.
Really? That many?
Yeah.
Damn, dude.
I feel like Reddit has become something successful in general.
I have two subreddits. I have, I just have two. But I thought about making a third just for philosophical atheism. I don't know what I would call it, but running a subreddit is a full-time thing. I don't know how you do 50 of them, but
well, they're all small.
Yeah,
one is 550,000.
How many?
But the others are small. 550.
550,000, 500,000.
Yeah, that's science. Yeah.
That's your Reddit, or you just mod there?
I've done most of the mod changes over like the last.
Wow, that's pretty good. What was the name of it?
Reddit's pretty good with recommending like tech stuff and equipment. That's pretty much all I think I use it for. Like best microphone Reddit.
Oh yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to talk about like philosophy stuff, and we're talking about specifically this kind of stuff.
It's GPT soon, so I think you'll be able to query like subreddits and be like show me all the advice about how to build my deck, or
Now let me ask you this: so if I started a subreddit just for philosophy of atheism, which where people would post things about papers written about atheism, like on my citation list that I have, the papers I've read, people can discuss those kind of things on a higher level. But then I would be like, it wouldn't be an echo chamber, but it would be like, hey, look, we're discussing this on a higher level. If you come in and just say atheism and lack of belief, you're not going to be taken seriously. And so, if I start a
subreddit already exists that kind of tackle those issues, but yeah, like I would need one like based off your name, since you kind of like.
But and then
you can just.
But if I did, should I limit it to just philosophical things, and prevent? Because I feel like I'm creating an echo chamber if I don't allow people to challenge it.
Well, I mean,
if they challenge it, they can learn, right?
It's going to be so small. It's going to be so small. In the
10
beginning
people, maybe. 10 people.
Any post is like, yay.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
Believe me,
I think you're right. If I started a subreddit and had 15 people, I'd be ecstatic.
And then if you change your mind, then you don't have to change your.
Oh, that's a good idea. I just know if I want to bother because I remember creating the other ones and they're a pain in the ass.
No, it's really easy. I created one yesterday.
Well, to create one takes 2 seconds, but to monitor, to do the mod mail, to set it up, to do the rules.
Nah, it's all like it takes 15.
It takes a day to do it right.
Hour, maybe like now you can just start.
Okay, thank you, buddy. Thank you.
Maybe one day Hank can tell me what evidence I'm obviously missing, like a dumb flat earther, but maybe next.
Maybe next time.
I told you multiple times. Yeah, you
didn't tell me what the evidence I'm ignoring though is. Did you? You didn't actually tell me. You just said I'm ignoring the evidence.
It's recorded. I have no before, but you can go ahead.
Is my audio okay? Somebody says robotic.
Yes,
yeah. It must be YouTube.
It was a little off for me earlier, but it all came back.
All right.
Probably just because of my location now.
Yeah, Hank, what is it? What is it? People missing?
No, they deny all the anthropological evidence. They deny the real estate, and pretty much they want to find God's of existence. So no matter what I show them, they don't want to accept the proposition.
But I mean, well, Hank, one of the arguments you can make to an atheist is say, look, here's a better explanation. This is why I'm positing God as an explanation. Most atheists are not going to accept that, but that's the way you could argue it, right?
I do.
Yeah. But see, here's the thing. I think people convince themselves. I think most people convince themselves that they're God, either one, through other people, through social pressures, or they just convince themselves. Because when I was a theist, that's how it happened. I convinced myself, and I convinced myself through other people, but I had experiences that I tried to relate. Oh, what's an explanation for this? God. But then as I got older, I'm like, oh, there are other explanations that explain these things better.
Yeah, all those coincidences, right?
Right. Things that we deal with all the time. They're just menial things. But here's the thing. Most of us. Well, hang on. Most of us are pattern seekers in some degree, right? And so when somebody's a theist, especially earlier on, it doesn't show a lack of intelligence, in my opinion. I think it shows a strong sense of intelligence because they're testing things. They're accepting things and go, okay, I believe this because I'm looking for pattern recognition. But as they learn more and become better critical thinkers and skeptics and things of that nature, they go, oh, look, I even know more than I did before. And maybe that pattern recognition that I thought I had wasn't the best conclusion that I could come up with. So I don't have any problem with being a theist. That is a way of getting to be a better critical thinker. If somebody says, look, my rationales and my justifications for why I believe there's a God do not justify my belief, and I no longer accept them. I do not accept that they're justifying my beliefs, and I change my position. I've seen it happen. I've seen people leave religion because of this, a very thing. They may not sit there and do it so explicitly, but that's what their internalization is. That's what they're internalizing, right?
So I had a little something I was looking into. For a little context, I used to be in a professional speech and debate club for high school. I was re-looking into the policies. And one of the things is the other side, if they reject your definition, Steve, they should, and I quote, you can go look at CCA debate or their policy. It says that they must prove why their definition better meets the criteria of the case. For example, why their definition better meets the criteria of atheism being a certain way. I'm actually kind of curious for the other speakers to try to prove why atheism should just be defined as lack of belief rather than the belief in no.
That's a great question. Absolutely. But the problem is everybody here agrees with me that there should be a belief. So you're not going to get any opposition in here so far. We're looking for it. We're trying to find some opposition. She's asking how would you argue lack of belief is a better usage of the term atheism than the belief, is what she's essentially asking for debate purposes.
Okay. How would lack of belief, like not having a belief in any sort of God, how would that be a better definition for atheism than just not believing in God?
Yeah. Is that what she's asking? KK, is that what she's asking?
Be nice. That's really
I have an answer, but she wants the other panelists. So, how would you answer that question?
Yeah, another thing that you guys finding
No. We're not going down that rabbit hole. We've already done that. Go ahead,
Okay.
Silence.
The argument that I would make towards that is knowledge as far as facts, they're 100% true and they're established things. You don't really have to think about those as much. You have to think more about what you believe in and how you believe things more than what is already established.
That's not answering the question, though. That's not the question. The question is, if you're going to have a debate, I'll try to steel man it the best as possible. KK, tell me if I'm wrong. But if you're trying to have a debate, right? Because she's talking about she was in debate class, and I've taken speech class and things of that nature for that very thing. You have a premise, and then you have the antithesis, the antithetical thesis to that premise, right? People have the con and the pro position. She's asking, why is it, if you're going to argue about atheism, that it should be argued from the position that atheism is merely a lack of belief? And there's an easy answer to this. There really is. But I'll wait for yours.
Because atheism isn't atheism the lack of belief of a God?
That's part of atheism. You have to lack a belief to be atheist, but atheism is the belief there's no God, which entails you lack a belief. But she's asking, why is it? She's asking, should just lack of belief in God be constitutive of what is sufficiency condition for atheists to be called atheist in a debate? Am I still manning you, KK? Is it right? Am I explaining it right?
Yeah, that was my question. Sorry.
Right.
I'm a woman. I use a lot of words.
No, wait. Okay. We're men. We don't listen to women using a lot of words anyway, so it doesn't really matter, right? I'm just kidding.
Our religion doesn't allow us to.
Right, exactly. But here's the thing. Here's a simple answer to this. If you want me to take a stab at it, if you're having a debate, you debate a position. Lack of belief is not a position, right? Lack of belief cannot be true or false ontologically, right? Because lack of belief isn't proposing any proposition. Atheism cannot be true unless it's propositional. So you cannot argue that atheism is true in a debate if it's not propositional. If it's just psychological, there's no truth value assigned to it. And this is why I ask people on Reddit, I'm like, look, if you're saying atheism is merely a psychological state, you're no longer talking about the ontology of God. You're talking about somebody's mental state, which means that everybody has their own independent version of atheist. Atheism is merely a lack of belief, then atheism, it would be the proposition, if you really wanted to really dive into it, the proposition was, is the silence, what's your last thing? The silence what? I'm sorry.
The silence one.
The silence one. Yeah, that's right. I had to look here. The silence one. If I said the silence one believes there is no God, therefore he lacks a belief, that's a true statement. So if I said atheism is true merely if he lacks a belief that there's a God, because he believes there's no God, then it's no longer predicated on God. It's predicated on if he has that mental state or not. But then if for somebody else that statement is false. Like for me, it would be false, and atheism would be false. And so what's the point of that? We want atheism and theism to talk about the ontological status of God, not your psychological state, because psychological states cannot be true or false. They're not truth apps. So that's how I would argue it. It's silly to argue lack of belief, if I said, hey, what's better for dinner, chicken or duck? And you say I don't want fish, what the hell does that tell me? What the hell does that tell me about what you want, duck or chicken? It's irrelevant. I lack what I want.
More likely to be rancid.
Yeah,
but my answer that would be twins. Who's cooking? Because if they don't know how to cook a duck, they don't know how to cook a chicken. Well, you got my answer there, don't you?
So Peggy picks up things. He says, but in debate, I wouldn't argue atheism is true as in lack of belief. I would argue the position of theism is not true, which means atheism is true. Atheism and theism are called contradictories. That means that if God exists, theism is true. If God does not exist, atheism is true. They both cannot be true, and they both cannot be false. If you argue theism is not true, you are arguing atheism is true by coextensive logic. You cannot have one without the other. That is the position, right? If theism is not true, then God doesn't exist, which means atheists got it right. But if you define atheism as merely lack of belief, you can't be true or false. Because I want to. Go ahead. Hi, Jared. Out there. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
We can actually kind of push the whole lack of belief in atheism as a primary definition. Like we
Anthony Flew in 1972 when he wrote The Presumption of Atheism, and he was running it with George H. Smith, who wrote a book called A Case Against God. And then David Silverman wrote what was his book on God? Whatever Silverman's book was. But again, all these new atheists started picking up on that and running with it, pushing this, indoctrinating atheists to believe that atheism was merely a lack of belief. American Atheist has said atheism is only one thing, the lack of belief in God. It literally says that atheism is just one thing, a lack of belief in God. They're wrong on that. I've been arguing for 10 years that they're wrong on that.
Do you think they made that lighter position because it might be easier to defend and it's nicer to the theists? Maybe. But Pocky says theism is not true doesn't mean God doesn't exist. Look at the psychology behind the original ideas. Would you agree, Meet, that if theism is not true, it means propositional, it means that the content is not the case. So if the theism is not true, then you're saying that the propositional content is not the case. So the propositional content is God exists. So you are saying God does not exist by affirming theism. By disconfirming theism. By saying theism is not true, you're saying that the semantic content of the proposition of theism is not the case. So it absolutely means if you say theism is not true, you are saying that God does not exist. Now, if you say I don't accept theism, that's a difference, right? I usually don't even like to boil it down to theism. I just say neutral religion is false. Yeah. Well, religion is supernatural. I know what you're saying. But Pocky argues it means truth wasn't demonstrated. No, that's not the same thing. Saying theism is false is not saying it has not been demonstrated. Saying theism is false means that the proposition doesn't exist. The proposition is not the case. The propositional content, right? It's a big difference. If you say theism is false, you're saying there's no God. You're not saying it hasn't been demonstrated. If you say it's not been demonstrated, then you can either believe it's false, you can have no position either way. I'd say not true. Oh, I see what you're saying, but it's still not correct. Believe it can be demonstrated. See, Poggy, Poggy says, I didn't say theism is false. I just said it's not true. Not true does not equal false. Absolutely wrong. Not true means false in logic. Not true. Yeah, I think a good way to. Yeah. So that's incorrect. It's like imagine you have a candle that's lit up, or you have a candle that's not lit up. That's basically answering is theism true or is theism false, or is atheism true or is atheism false. But if you have a lack of belief, that candle is not even there. Yeah, well, it only tells people one of two things. If I say I lack a belief in God, it tells you I'm either agnostic or atheist. I mean, we're talking about direct positions. There's only 3 epistemic positions, right? Believe, disbelieve, or have no position either way. So if you lack a belief, are you saying that you lack a belief because you believe there's no God, or do you lack a belief because you have no position either way? 2 vastly different positions. But for somebody says that not true doesn't mean false, it's just wrong. Not true means false. They're binary. It's a dichotomy in logic. Correct, everybody? And Pocky, you know logic.
So to the example, okay, so the example that KK gave was the candle is lit. Can you repeat that? Something there. There's something there. He'll suss it out. There's something there.
She'll answer. Go ahead.
Can you please repeat the thought you just put forward as far as the candle?
Candle is lit, meaning that you have belief, or there is a God.
That's why I'm asking KK to repeat themselves. As far as
okay. I have the same question.
Example, because I want to be sure that I'm getting it right.
Yeah, KK. Go ahead. KK. You're muted. I can't mute an individual. I can only mute their face. Maybe she's AFK.
Yeah, it's possible.
Yeah. But saying Poggy's in the live chat talking about saying something's false. He's not saying that it's not true. But but again, you have to think logically, right? You shouldn't say theism is not true unless you're talking about logic and proposition. What you should say is, I don't believe it is the case that theism is true. That's your argument. I don't believe it is the case. And if you're an atheist, you would say I believe that I would believe that theism is false, right?
Yeah, it's the opposite.
Right.
It's theism is the lack of atheism. Theism means the opposite of atheism. That makes sense.
My mod says that the audio on Twitter is getting garbled. Is that anybody else has that problem? Because it sounds fine to me. It's not on my end. It should be going over the streamers just fine.
I can check YouTube now.
Would you? Yeah, no, I don't think it's a distinction without a difference. I think that one is saying theism is false is making a statement about the propositional value. If I say I don't believe theism is true, you're just making an evaluation on that proposition. There's a big difference to be had there. It's garbled over there. Huh. All right, let me come back in. Okay, maybe it's on my end. So I'm just gonna reload here. 1 sec. All right, let me ask the outside chat. Is that better now? You guys need to talk.
Hello.
Gotta give him more evidence to work with here.
Say more than that. Recite something. They got to hear the audio, so it's garbled. Yeah.
No,
recite something like, woe to you of earth and sea, for the devil sends a beast with wrath, for he knows his time is short. Let he who hath understanding reckon the number of the beast, for it is a human number. Its number is 666. There you go. It's clear now. Okay, cool.
Oh, Jesus.
What light through yonder window breaks? It is the east, and Juliet is the sun. Arise, fair sun, and kill the envious moon, which is already stricken pale with grief, or something along those lines. Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou, Romeo? Refuse thy father, and I shall refuse my name, and shall long longer be a Capulet. Shakespeare. I actually did read Shakespeare, right?
Yeah, I know what you're quoting. I just can't.
Dude, I know a lot of things that people don't fucking think that I know. Okay. Boil, boil, toil and trouble, cauldron burn and fire bubble. I've read Hamlet. I've read Macbeth. I was in a Shakespeare play when I was in elementary school. I played Mercutio. So I love the Tempest. I love the Taming of the Shrew. So yeah, I don't ever talk about that kind of stuff. I know what dynamic pentameter is, but nobody's ever heard me talk about Shakespeare on this channel, I think, before, because there's some things that I don't know, never ever came up. And this is off the top of my head, by the way. You know this, right? I mean, I'm not looking at anything.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of things are off the top of your head, and your mouth just goes a mile a minute to keep up.
I haven't Googled fuck all since I've been in this hangout. I think maybe
I think you might need a little indica, Steve.
Dude, let me tell you about this shit. Okay, so I got these things called drops, and they come to a metal case. They're 50 milligrams each, but they can be divided into 10 milligrams.
Ooh.
And I took 20, and I tasted the terpenes or whatever they're called for like 20 minutes. I could still taste it. It was so terpenes, yeah. They were so heavy, right? And I was like, oh my god. And I messaged one of my friends. I'm like, dude, I think I may have fucked up, man. I think I may have taken too much. Oh my god, how I wasn't howling at the moon because these things were potent as shit. And the guy told me, if you take one of the 50s, don't expect to go anywhere for a day or two.
Oh yeah.
And so I'm glad that I didn't take like a 50 of them, because that would have been like 50 milligrams. OMG.
Okay.
I mean, I can take 15 right now, but I don't know if I want to.
Yeah, no, I haven't taken anything. I
Got
take it at
If
night
you
to
want to
sleep.
be a theist on the level of Steve, do drugs. Got it.
Dude, it opens up your mind. I'm telling you, it really does. I'm not fronting. I'm not trying to advocate, legal.
Have you done
use of
psychedelics,
things,
Steve?
No. One of these days, maybe.
The thing is, I've never taken psychedelics, and I can keep up, but it is difficult for me to keep up with everything on this conversation.
Yeah,
I can tell you all my stories.
Poggy said I once ate 5 brownies without knowing it, that they were pot brownie. My friend was trolling me. I ate something like that one time, Poggy, probably 11 years ago, I think it was. I think it was 11 years ago, and I was high for 3 days. It was the most miserable experience of my life. Never again. This was it was medical grade marijuana, probably 300 milligrams, I've had a guess. Never again. It was horrifying. I absolutely do not recommend it. Yeah, it's horrifying. It's you like to drink, right? And have a nice Johnny Walker Black, like we talked about, the socializing over some cold ice cube, what do they call them, ice rocks or something like that. But there's a difference between that and downing a whole bottle of Johnny Walker Black and getting sicker than shit and probably dying. There's a big difference, right?
Well, I've seen people die doing that, so yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
You can't die off pot, but you can do some stupid shit maybe when you're high. But yeah, it was miserable.
Fall asleep in an uncomfortable position that makes your neck hurt. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, my roommate thought she didn't realize I was so after I took 20, but I wasn't moving for like 20 minutes, and she's like, "Is he asleep? Is he okay?" I'm just like, "I'm all well in the universe." You know?
All right, I think I might have one now.
Yeah, I can't. I can't take one. I even a 10 milligram.
I got some
this
devil
stuff.
driver flower. and
I
some
can't
Bezor.
right now. I have
No.
to go double tomorrow.
No, I can't function. I got stuff to do tomorrow. Obviously, you know, I'm only available at nights really. But yeah, I'm not gonna take one tonight to sleep. I don't even think. I could take 5 milligrams. I can cut them. You know, they're they're $8 for 100 milligrams, $10 after tax, so they're cheap enough. But I could probably cut it down for 20 doses at 5 milligrams each just to help sleep and still feel fine, feel good. You know.
Yeah, well, there's like 5 millimeter or 5 mg like gummies and stuff. Just get some of those.
Yeah, but I'm telling you, these come 2 to a pack, and if you did not realize how potent they really are, they're high dose. So, I mean, if you were to take one of the 2, oh man. Unless you're,
What state are you in?
California, perfectly legal.
Yeah.
Yep, perfectly legal here, guys.
Man, you Californians get all the experiments.
We do. Colorado, perfectly
Dude, you
legal.
know what? I used to live in New York City, and I moved out right as it became legal.
Where's it not anymore, though? Very few places, I don't think.
Well, I mean, like I live in Utah, but it's medical. So
Utah doesn't.
it's like,
I'm in North Carolina, and South Carolina is getting all the fun stuff. It's
and,
crazy.
like medical.
So North
Yeah, like
Carolina.
medical, I have to pay $200 a year or something for a license.
But Utah and North Carolina doesn't have recreational legal yet.
It
Yeah,
doesn't
and
have
like most
recreational
southern
legal,
states.
Yeah, and by the way, I should say state legal. Federal has a different thing altogether. So but state, it's getting there.
I'm
Federal's
hoping
getting
they're going to change
They
that,
are.
but
They
yeah.
are.
They have it on. Oddly enough, in North Carolina, they have it on the city level in some areas. Like I could go. It's that split apart in North Carolina. Like I could drive an hour and I can go into a hookah bar, but then when I drive an hour back to where I came from, suddenly I'm in the Bible Belt, and that's a no go. There's no,
where approximately in North Carolina are you?
Around the Triad.
Do you know where Greensboro is?
Yeah, that's exactly the hour trip I was talking about. I'm an hour
Okay.
out from Greensboro.
Well, that's where my lawsuit was, by the way. That's how I won back the non sequitur show.
Really?
Was Greensboro Court? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep, sure was.
I've been in that court before. It's actually
yeah, Doctor.
They
Not
took
Doctor. I'm
it.
sorry, Judge Gale. And I won, and he went to jail for a couple of days. Nice, huh?
Your lawyers?
No, the person I sued, he went to jail for contempt of court. He submitted false evidence to the court, and he got busted.
Wow.
Yeah, he was in jail.
Only we could do that with religion.
Yeah, well, he got picked up for assault, simple assault. But when he was in there, I had the arrest warrant sent to the DA to keep him in there. So, because I already knew there was an arrest warrant out for the court.
Go.
So I basically, kept him stuck in there. We were talking. It was the ADA, the assistant district attorney that we knew on the case. So yeah, fun story.
88?
Yeah, assistant DA. Hmm?
Oh, ADA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Assistant.
I thought you meant the year.
No. But there was something else I was going to ask about before that. Oh yeah. So did you hear about the story about this woman in Mississippi who had bong water in her car? She had bong water, just bong water, right? She's looking at 30 years because of an archaic law.
Fuck.
Yeah, swear to God.
Well, I mean, that
Go look it up. This
pretty
happened the other day.
nasty.
30 years for bong water.
It's pretty nasty, but bong water, really? I
Yeah.
mean,
I'm not even joking because it's an archaic law on there because bong water was used to make other things, and so they just never revamped the law, and they won't fix it for her. They're actually prosecuting
that's like
her.
that's like someone getting arrested for pre-spice.
I'm telling you. I'm telling you, it's
And they
a
have
felony.
to pay for that.
It's a
like
felony
so
to have bong water. You can have marijuana, you can have a joint, and it's be a misdemeanor, like $100 fine or whatever it is. But bong water is considered to be.
But it's a felony.
It's a felony because it's considered something to be in the manufacturing of illicit stuff. It's in manufacturing, which is such bullshit, obviously. Go look it up. Go look it up on Google. I'm not even joking.
Well, all you're telling me is, hey, be thankful that you can drive an hour to go to Greensboro and get
Right. You be thankful that I mean, you don't live in Mississippi, right?
It's weird. It's not like possession, you know. Like,
All right, I gotta take off, guys. I got
water.
All right. Thank you, buddy. Hey, JCO, are you gonna have more? Oh, JCO that said that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you gonna have like more call-in shows? Or you're gonna be like, oh my shit, after that last one, no way.
I'm about to say I have to see my YouTube analytics. I might make more call-in shows.
All right.
They're so much fun.
Well, I hope you come around when I have these hangouts. I just wish we could have got more, discussion. But I haven't reviewed your video yet. What I probably might do this weekend, I'll watch the video in its entirety, and then I'll just do a review of that video specifically for my channel, pros, cons, and indifference. But I think that like it's probably 95% is probably correct. Would you be okay with that? Then I'll link you to it.
That's fine.
You watch later.
Okay. As long as it's valid criticism, I'm fine with that.
Of course.
If you just say you're wrong, I'll be like,
No,
okay.
Dude, come on. Would I do that to you?
I know you.
I'm not a lack belief atheist. I have standards.
You're wrong and you're evil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're wrong and you're a poopy head.
Okay.
Oh my God, you bigot!
Yeah, big. Oh, yeah. Hey, Tom. Did Stephen Cray pass the test? What I missed, Tom? How you for my friend Tom? Tom is a good guy. Tom. But yeah, that is funny. If you don't agree with me, you're automatically a bigot. Doesn't matter what it is. Pick a subject. You're a bigot. It's funny because I do argue this, and I actually do mean this. This is not hyperbole. I do believe that the word bigot has been turned into what the Scientologists would call a suppressive person. It's used the same way.
Yeah, exactly. That's what. That's all it. And transphobe, homophobe, Nazi even lost a lot of its sting, which is pretty bad.
It's a shame that because that actually had a stigma that was well deserved, obviously, right?
It had a stigma that was not only well deserved but historically proven.
And here's the funniest thing. Okay, I'm sorry.
No, and it was just thrown to the wayside just to call random people that.
Right. It was watered down to win an argument, to character assassinate people. We had a trans person here the other day. Do you know what changed because we had a trans person in here? Nothing. Because none of us really fucking cared. Why would we? Now there was a couple issues that came up dealing with transgender, but it's fine. But I don't give a shit whether you're trans, gay, straight, whatever. Come on in, have a discussion. That's not bigotry. That's not bigotry. That's what that's what the gay community has strived for equality, be treated like the same for anybody else. If I have to treat you differently because you're gay, then you've lost the part of equality. That's what equality means. That's the Gen X version of equality. That's it.
That's why one of the talks on X is LGB without the TQ. It's because of that fixation that the LGB is like, okay, we finally got our rights, but trans people are like, no, trans rights are human rights. We still don't have our rights. You need to back us up. Like, no, we don't need to back you up because we are recognized as people nowadays.
But that's our atheism, by the way. Our atheism plus is a real thing. It is a real subset of atheism, and our atheism and atheism plus. I would say it's atheism double plus. I think it's a whole new thing. It's an extreme. It's a religion. Atheism plus is a religion, I think, but double plus. Or atheism double plus?
You think veganism has kind of become part of that?
Nah, not to me. I never. But here's the thing: I don't get involved in those discussions, so I couldn't weigh in.
Yeah,
Maybe to some that they might treat veganism as religion. Some of the really like vegan gains, maybe. Sure.
Vegan gains.
Yeah. Well, if you go on like R Vegan or even Arvistopia, it's like a dystopia for vegans. You can see like everyone like being depressed all the time. They basically have PTSD from watching like these documentaries in Brazil and stuff. And then
it's gotta fuck with you, man. It's gotta fuck with you.
How does everyone not see like all this murder everywhere? Like
same thing with abortion, right? People look at the graphic images of abortion. Of course, it's going to affect your mind.
Yeah,
yeah.
And the way that I see it, like a lot of people that downplay the graphic nature of abortion hasn't sat through and actually seen what goes on there. Like it's pretty gnarly.
Yep. Chemo says Americans are maybe born to be wild, but Canadians are born to apologize. That is absolutely true. Yeah.
Yep.
That's true. True statement. Yeah.
Wait,
yeah, and Puggy's right. See, Puggy's right. Unless you're a doctor and you get used to it, right? But most people don't have that kind of training to process those kind of things. Doctors do have psychological things. I think that through their training, they learn to be And I hate the word desensitized, but that's essentially what it is they're being desensitized to it. Same with first responders. They're going to see gore. They are desensitized to it.
Yeah. Once you do a thing enough, you become very. Once you see a thing enough, I guess I should say, you become rather numb to it. Like, when it came down to a majority, nobody likes losing their pets. We don't want our pets to suffer. A majority of the pets that my family has lost, I've not cried because I have been there, realizing that my point.
But you're still sad. But you're still sad, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm still very sad.
Right.
Don't get me wrong, but I'm there
You
so that
process
my
it different.
family can lean on me and I can just comfort them. I'm the stone until I can get my own time to be like, okay, I'm gonna cry now.
Right, exactly.
Like
Poggy says he slaughters his own food, and I fish. I've cooked my own fish. Absolutely.
I've had to euthanize my guinea pig after it got bit by a dog.
Now it's depressive. Why'd you got to go there? Yeah, I'm just kidding. But,
I understand entirely. Like the silence is one.
Yeah, and I appreciate you doing that. Yes.
Yes, I do.
Legitimize me making this entire talk very depressing.
100%. I believe that. Hey, look, I believe this. We are stewards of moral compassion for animals, and if we treat animals poorly, that shows something about our character, and it shows something about our empathy. And so that is why this is a fact. Sociopaths that are, serial killers do have a propensity to harm animals because they don't think that the animal feels anything. This is why when I see a religious person says, "Oh, there's no soul for an animal, therefore I can do whatever I want with it because doesn't have a soul," I'm like, you're an evil fucking person. I denounce your God. I denounce your religion, and you can fuck off and die. That's how I
go. How would a soul evolve?
But I've heard people argue that. I've heard not very often, but I've heard one or two say, "Look, it doesn't matter how we treat animals. They have no soul. They don't feel anything. They're just put in because God. They're automatrons. They're what's called automatrons in a Descartes sense, right?
Well, or they
automaton.
We're like supposed to be the stewards and then of all animals, and they're like, "Oh, that means we should be vegans," and then others are
we'll
like,
be back with some more Transformers Beast Wars and just after this.
God. Well, like I said, I think stewards means that we should look. There's nothing wrong with hunting and killing your own animals. There's nothing wrong with that as long as you eat them. And I love the fact that the Native Americans and things like that, they respect their kill. I actually think that means something. And so when people say, "What does it matter?" It doesn't have any real effect. It does to the mental state. It makes you understand that something has died for you to survive and to remain humble. So I think it is important to have those types of cultural beliefs.
Yeah, do you watch like Naked and Afraid and Alone and stuff?
I've seen a couple.
Every time they get an animal killed, they're all like, "Oh God, like I'm so hungry, but I'm also so thankful."
Yeah,
and it is like a spiritual experience there.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, hey, look at this. He said, "Hey, yeah, Steve Steele nailed it. Thank you." See, maybe not all my ideas are so bad, right? Maybe I'm not this bad person that my trolls and haters have made me out to be. I'm actually, if anything, I'm extremely empathetic. I do go out of my way to have compassion for people, and people fuck me over because of it. Like the person I had to sue to get my channel back. But that's what happens.
I believe you.
Shitty people take advantage of people like me. I'm absolutely convinced.
I believe you 100%. By the way, God still doesn't exist. Just
that's fine. Yeah, sure. And by the way, there's no God. By the way, I don't lack a belief. Let me tell you why there's no God, because I'm not a pussy. God, lack of belief atheists are just, I'm sorry, but I thought they were dying out. God damn it. I really did. I really thought that
it's just they're being nice. Like the psychology explains it all.
But why are they
it really does.
Reality, I'm a nice guy. A few seconds later, oh, no wonder they're dying out.
I'm a nice guy, but certain beliefs have to die out, okay? Certain beliefs have to die out. I don't want lack of, I don't want the person to die. I'm just saying that the theology, the position that lack of belief is somehow atheism is a sufficient condition is just shit.
Keep talking, Steve. You can talk your way out of this. I believe in you.
Fuck, I better back that way, right? I like to keep my channel. I don't want to have terms of service. Did you hear Steve? Steve was advocating for genocide of new atheists. No, I would not. No. Oh, hey, Kiki says, I have to. She says, hang on. I have to go. Y'all have a blessed day. Thank you. If you're interested in learning more about debate stuff, I made a post on my community page. Okay, cool. Thank you. Yeah, no, I like debate stuff. I run a debate group, or I did. Not so much anymore, but I have the debate group on Facebook that still exists that people still post to. But yeah, I love debate stuff. I love argumentation theory. I also like speech act theory as well, which I think is very important for argumentation theory. I think if you understand speech act theory, then you're understanding what it is, the difference between what you say, what you mean to say, and how other people interpret it. Because there's not always the same thing, right? And because again, but who really reads about this shit? Like me, like you have a specialty in nutrition, so you're going to have a little bit more fundamental understanding of certain things about nutrition the average person won't have. But how many people on the street, if I ask them, do you know the difference between locution, illocution, and perlocution, would they have any idea what the differences are? Of course not.
Very few. I doubt a lot of people would actually know what those things
I don't
are.
know what that.
Right,
Yeah,
but how many atheists would in these debate circles? None of them.
None.
Except the ones that are educated, right? But they're not lack of belief atheists. I've never met a single lack of belief atheist that could tell me the difference. But I think it's important in a debate circle to understand those concepts personally.
Mm-hmm.
Or Grice's maxioms. How many new atheists have heard of Grice's maxioms? Not many.
I wouldn't expect a whole lot too.
But this is what I'm saying. I've actually bothered to educate myself on these things. And so when I have some dipshit atheist on Reddit tell me I'm wrong, I don't believe you. I need a little bit more evidence in this. And they're like, "Oh, you're misunderstanding. You're misunderstanding." I'm like, "No, listen, bitch. I understand just fine. You don't understand, and you're not even at a level to even begin to understand, nor are you at a level to even have this engagement with somebody that has an intro to philosophy level understanding." Because that's all I'm claiming. An entry level of philosophy. That's it. That's my claim. I have an entry level of philosophy and logic, period. That I can at least understand basic stuff. That's it. That's all I'm claiming. Not an expertise. But that's all you need to have a lot of conversations, which is still more than what they have.
See, I don't even have an entry in philosophy, and I've already learned more from you than I feel like I would from these atheists.
Well, thank you. I like educating people. I don't want to keep this knowledge all for myself. I'm not. Why would you want to do that? I want people to know what I know. As a matter of fact, look on Twitter, Silenced. Look on Twitter and look at people like Outdone and Kawasa and other people that now argue the exact same things I'm arguing using the same evidence, using the same papers that I've cited, using the same screenshots I've cited. How many people have done that? All of them do that now because of me. They weren't doing that before. They've learned from me. And I love that. And I've learned from them on other subjects. I'm sure if I hung out with Meat and we were talking about nutrition, of course I would learn something. I'd be thrilled to do so. I happen to like that topic too.
Do you use nutrition? I'm like, I know pretty much every topic.
On nutrition, you mean?
Yeah, like, yeah. Do you want me to describe my philosophy quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So I read this book in 2012 by Gary Taubes, and he basically makes the case for low carb, but he explains it through history. Like the history of a scientist. Low carb, high fat, moderate protein.
Okay,
so
high
maybe.
Fat. Yeah, I like that as well. High fat, medium protein, like 70, low carb,
70% plus. Yep. And then in 2017, there was this new doctor named Sean Baker that was starting to talk about the carnivore diet, and it's basically keto, but it's just no plants.
Yeah, so and I've heard about those. And I've heard the paleo diet.
Exactly.
And but I also understand that if you have ketosis, your liver is processing the ketones rather than processing your glucose. And so once you go into ketosis, your liver is effectively operating just off those ketones, which can make you very, very sick initially.
No, that's not. Well, there's a keto flu adaptation. Yeah.
Yes, you have to wait. Your body has to adapt to this.
I wouldn't say it's very sick. It's like
but
a little fatigue or nauseousness.
But would you say that if you go into a type of diet where it puts you into ketosis, you probably should have a doctor monitoring? Because I don't
think so.
Okay.
I don't think so.
But that's what it is, right? Ketosis.
Well, there's all sorts of debate on that, and the other thing is if you're taking medications, like they become too effective on ketosis, especially like insulin.
Yes.
So like if you're like a heavy diabetic and you're taking 30 units of insulin a day and you go keto and you keep taking that, you're going to go into
Right, because it's no
hypoglycemic
longer
shock.
using it's no longer using your glucose supplies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I like long term, I think it's like a generally healthy way to eat, and like you become fat adapted over like 3 or 4 weeks. So really, like all your mitochondria are figuring out like, oh wow, I can use free fatty acids more, and I can use ketones, and I don't have to depend on glycolysis,
right?
Which it works outside of the mitochondria.
And it's so funny. I took all that in biology, right? I took biology. We studied the glycolysis cycle, the citric acid cycle, mitochondrial matrix. We studied the ATP cycle, which I did videos on. In fact, 8 years ago, I did videos on the ATP cycle, including complex 5 for ATP production. So when people say that, like Steve's an idiot, I have had college. I have understood these topics, right? So it's so fucking hilarious because we haven't talked about ATP synthase for probably 6-7 years on my channel. People like Tom remembers these days. But here's the thing. It's like you can talk about these topics and I can understand them. I don't go, hey, ATP synthase is not a real thing.
I'm pleasantly surprised. Like, yeah, you definitely seem to know your stuff.
I shock a lot of people sometimes, man. I can actually used to be able to tell you about the like I said, each individual complex, what it does for the electron ionization for the electron transport chain. I have a whole video on this.
The proton pump, yeah.
Well, that's what ATP synthase is an ion degrade.
That's the part 5, right? Where
it's complex 5, yeah. It's
the hydrogen atoms.
Correct, but there's a proton pump
across the membrane.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it's a semi-permeable membrane.
Basically turns a wheel that
that
adds like the phosphate into the ADP.
Correct. On the F1 part of the phosphate, you have the F on the ATP synthase. You have the F naught, and then you have F1, and then you have what's called a conformational change, which adds the phosphate to the ATP. Again, I know this shit, and people think that I
have you seen the animations of that now?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I've seen it. Matter of fact, I did a video. One of the animations comes from creation.com. Right?
Oh, really?
Yeah, one of the
it's so miraculous.
But here's the thing: creation.com is ran by Dr. Jonathan Sarfati. He's one of the members of that. I think he owns the domain, if I'm not mistaken. He liked my argument so much, he put my argument on creation.com, believe it or not.
Oh,
I'm not even joking. We go way back. I've known Sarfati for like 8-9 years. We have a great friendship, which is fucking amazing because he's a creationist, right? But we get along exceptionally well. He's been on shows before talking about me, how you can get along with a anti-young earth creationist, and they're like, he's fair. We don't agree, but you know what? Steve is fair. That's high praise.
Yeah, creationists are fun. They're just so they're so certain.
Tom remembers. ATP mayonnaise word salad. Was that the guy's name with DNA degrading in water again? Yes, that was Rocket Ronnie. So we had a guy years ago. This is going back old school, guys. But Rocket Ronnie argued that oh God, I can't believe I'm bringing this up because there was such a dead issue. I even hate to fucking bring it up after 6 years.
Here we go.
But I hate this. But he had argued that DNA degrades in water, and we were trying to explain to him that DNA is an acid, which means when you put it in DNA in water, there's a proton ion that comes off the phosphate backbone. And so that means it dissolves in water. Doesn't mean it degrades because the nucleotide in the DNA, those hydrogen bonds don't break. And so the nucleotide sequence still stays the same. So it dissolves in water, but it doesn't degrade except for like a very, very, very long period of time. But if you just put water, he thought if you put DNA in water, it just degrades and falls apart. It's like, no, it dissolves. And he didn't understand the difference because he didn't even understand that it was an acid. It was a proton contributor.
Yeah.
So hey, what the fuck do I know, right? Steve's an idiot.
Ribonucleic acid.
Yeah. Well, he used to call it, what the hell?
Deoxyribonucleic acid.
Yeah, but he used to call it deoxyribose nucleic. No, what do you call it? He used to call it something really odd.
Deoxyribonucleic acid.
Yeah, but he used to call it something different. And we used to be like,
really?
No, that's not what DNA is. Yeah. I don't remember what he used to say.
Oh, well, it's nice to change the definition by changing the name, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, he used to also argue that transpermeable membranes for what they call seven trans membrane, something like that. I don't remember the hell it was anymore because it's been so long I looked at it. But it's for basically gates in the membrane that allows for transportation of ions across it. But he was just like, "Oh, this disproves evolution." It's like, what?
That was he carrying a 60-foot pole to make that leap?
I don't know, man.
That was a hell of a leap.
Dude, well, he was the one that the creationists, the lower echelon creationists, would all think that he knew what he was talking about because he read a Wikipedia article. And so they were like thinking, like, this guy knows what he's talking about. He claimed to have a master's degree in organic chemistry, but he never went. He said, I never actually went to class. I went to a college class once. I didn't like it, but I have the equivalency of a master's degree in organic chemistry. And everybody's like, if only that it worked away. So he read something about seven transman. What the fuck are they called? 7 transman receptors, right? And he read something about that, and he just started jargon bombing people in a hangout. And people are like, "Oh my God, he really does know what the fuck he's talking about." But people that actually knew what he was talking about goes, "Wait a minute, no, that's not what it fucking is," you know? Oh my God, good times. I've had way too much coffee, and this is fun as shit. I'm going to keep this thing up, by the way, because this was fun, guys. This was fun.
Yeah.
I'm glad we could make it worthwhile.
Thank you.
And help you out.
By the way, do you know what my background actually really was? Like, do you want to went to school for and train for and blah, blah, blah?
No. Is it in your Twitter profile? I feel like I just saw
it
it.
isn't. Does anybody remember what I mean?
Nuclear power school?
Yes, I was trained to operate nuclear power plants and train people to operate. I qualified reactor supervisor for 2 types of reactor core systems, and I had to literally do training. To operate
Which ones?
S1C and D2G reactor cores, and I don't remember anything from S1C. Don't even ask. But D2G I remember a little bit more.
Okay, so what fuel do they burn?
That used a uranium-235 mixture on zircon oxide fuel plates that had fuel pellets. That had an 8 micron niobium coating around it to prevent crushing during the process of making the fuel plates. But what the fuck do I remember, right?
Yeah, wow.
Chad,
And,
if you can see a GIF right now, it would be the Patrick head blown up. GIF.
If you really want to blow your mind,
My
look at the 6-factor formula. That was what my final oral board exam. We didn't go the math as technical it does on Wikipedia. Okay, I admit that a little bit more than we went into, but basically the gist of it was the same. But my oral board was, talk about the 6-factor formula, explain to us what a fast fission factor is, what a resonant escape probability is, what a non-thermal fuel utilization is. My favorite one was this one. And Wikipedia doesn't even call it this, so I'm not, cribbing right now. But it was called the average logarithmic energy decrement per collision coefficient. And Wikipedia just calls it lethargy, but we know it as squiggle because the symbol for it was a xi symbol, which is squiggle. So we just called it squiggle, but when we had to define it, it was the average logarithmic energy decrement per collision coefficient. And so it's really funny when I hear Redditors, you atheist Redditors going, "Oh, Steve's a troll." It's like, fuck, I did have 4 years of college. I just didn't finish my degree. I did have, 2 years of nuclear power school and prototype and 4 years on board training. I was a mechanic. I did understand, fluid theory. I did take reactor kinematics. I did take vector analysis. I did take heat transfer fluid theory. And
you
so
have like an elective in learning about the atomic bomb?
No, they don't. It's funny, they don't teach about anything about that, but the principles are the same, right? Because if you have a fission, then obviously you're gonna see. Here's a big mistake. A lot of people don't understand when they're talking about like the bomb. You know what? It actually creates the heat for the reactor. It's simple.
It's like another bomb that's coming down and impacting it.
No, that's for a fusion bomb, right? For a fusion bomb, you need a fission bomb. But the actual thing, the whole principle behind a reactor about why things get hot is because things vibrate. And so when you have an atom that's split, a uranium-235 atom, and it splits into something like promethium or samarium, technetium, that when it does that, it vibrates. And when you vibrate, that's kinetic energy, right? It creates friction. That vibration, that energy from that split is what imparts thermal energy to the water. That increases the temperature of the water. It's a kinetic energy
Yeah,
relationship.
and then you make steam and turbine.
And they make
energy
steam from
and
that, right? So,
electricity. Yeah.
but that's where the energy comes from. A lot of people think it comes from the gamma rays, right? And the X-ray.
Oh, yeah, right.
But that's only a small portion of it. That's a very small portion of the heat. The heat actually comes from
So the gamma rays don't like heat
It's
the
mostly
water
X-ray.
either.
Well, yeah, it's still energy, but it's not as nowhere near what a what's called the delayed neutron precursors.
Mhm.
They resonate, and then they produce neutrons later on that slow down the overall what's called K effective of the reactor, because your K effective is your criticality. If you're creating more neutrons in your what's called your neutron cycle, then your reactor is supercritical. If you're from generation to generation and you're stable where you're not,
Inside, like
it's called
fuel
critical.
itself,
And if you're less than, it's
because
subcritical.
it's getting too hot.
What do you mean?
Like if you're not cooling it enough, like you're not
But-
pulling the water away.
But you're not cooling enough because you're having neutrons in what's called your multiplication factor. Your K effective is called your multiplication factor. If that's greater than 1, you're producing more neutrons, creating these fissions, creating more particles that are resonating to impart heat to the water than you would be if there's less neutrons. And so you're increasing the temperature of the water.
Well, what's causing the increase in the neutrons?
There's a lot of things I can add to it. If I raise rod height, right? If I raise rod height, I'm exposing the moderator, which is the water, to the fuel itself, right? So by raising rod height, there's more fuel exposed, which means that there's going to be more reactions. So that doesn't change reactor power. This is another mistake that people make. I even took a physics class in college, and the book was wrong. And I talked to my professor afterwards, and we had a good discussion, and he agreed. But it was like it was something along the lines of to increase reactor power, you raise rod height in a pressurized water reactor. That's not true. That's false. What increases reactor power is steam demand. What you're doing when you're raising rod height, all you're doing is exposing more fuel to the moderator, which means you have more fissions, which means the water gets hotter, which means you have more energy you're going to use to spin the propeller faster and go faster, but it doesn't raise your reactor power. The reactor power stays the same. What raises the reactor power is when you open up your throttle and you're drawing more steam out. That causes the temperature of the moderator to go down. And if the temperature of the moderator goes down, that means the water is more condensed. It's more dense. If it's more dense, the thermal neutron path is called the mean free path is smaller, and that's what it goes to the average logarithmic energy decrement per collision coefficient. It means that this being thermalized more, and neutrons that are thermalized are more readily able to be absorbed by your uranium-235 atom because of the macroscopic cross sections for absorption, and therefore it more split. That causes reactor power to go up, and that stabilizes. Eventually, your T hot and T cold thermal loops stabilize on your average for your T average, and you're basically having a higher increased reactor power, but at a T average that's a little bit higher. And again, I train people to do this. I literally had seminars this in the Navy. You have to explain this to people. So, it's just like, we all have our little things.
I have to say this might be more complex than nutrition, but the other thing with nutrition is we have so many more things, so many more chemicals and molecules.
I'm not like the Reddit.
No, you're not a complete idiot.
Surprising.
So I'm curious. Have you heard about seed oils?
I'm sorry, what?
Seed oils?
Seed oils?
No, feed.
No, seed. SEED.
I have not, except if I know what an oil is, and I know that you can extract oil from certain things.
Right. So let me take you through this whole thing because it's a doozy.
Yeah, go for it. Now's your turn to strut your brain here.
All right. So when plants grow, right, their leaves have a high amount of ALA. It's an omega-3 fatty acid.
Mm-hmm. I love my omega-3 fatty acids because they're antioxidants.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And then
what does Steve know?
In the seeds, there's more omega-6 fatty acids.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So when you grind or refine seeds, this higher average omega-6 ends up in the oil. Okay. Mm-hmm. So these seed oils are in our food supply now. And basically, before we were able to refine seeds, we didn't eat that many of these seed oils. And the interesting thing is this linoleic acid, it's the main omega-6 in the seed oils. When you metabolize it in your body, there's all these breakdown products, and you get into like metabolites and stuff. They're called oxalams, and there's a variety of names and species and stuff. But one of the main ones is called 4-hydroxynonenal, or it's called 4-HNE. And yeah, so this is like a toxin basically in our foods, and it both comes in during the production phase of the seed oil, but especially when you expose it to heat or air or light, the oxygen basically starts these lipid peroxidation processes that oxidize the oil.
I definitely
and
know.
that's why you
yes, redox.
Yeah, that's why you end up having.
Is it toxic because it affects the electron transport chain? Because some types of toxics, like I think it was not hemlock, but the other one, strychnine, if I'm not mistaken. No, what's the one that tastes like almonds?
Cyanide.
Cyanide. It interrupts the cytosine. I think it's cytosine C, if I'm not mistaken. But it interrupts.
Yeah.
So
I think you're right.
It interrupts cytosine C production, so your electron transport chain doesn't produce the ATP, and then you die, because the electron transport chain is where you get most of your ATP production. You can get it from glycolysis as well.
So it's almost more insidious, because these are like the fatty acids that like make up your cardiolipin that do like the transporting into the mitochondria, or it's also your cell membranes.
So they have like that.
Yeah, so they have like a unique amount of like omega-3 and omega-6 and saturated fats, and they like pass molecules between like horizontally, not just vertically through it. You could think of the cell.
Yeah, I mean, I know vertical transport. That's what like the 7M the 7M.
Yeah, right. It's like what we all think, but they also like their different unsaturated amounts like allow. Yeah, because they're also vibrating, right? The fatty acids have multiple positions.
But those transmembranes are just proteins, right?
No, they're mostly fatty acids.
Oh, I thought they
and then the proteins like attached to the fatty acid like cells.
Oh yeah.
They're anchored on the inside, right?
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I mean, I'm going back. Yeah. I mean, when I remember like when we looked in this stuff, because again, this guy brought it up. They were called what was it? G protein coupled receptors.
Yeah.
So they were coupled. They were G proteins. So they were proteins, but they were receptors that went through the transmembrane of the cell.
Yeah, it's like a rivet, basically, or something like that.
Again, look, I'm not a biologist. This is all what I remember from.
No, I know, but you're smart, and yeah. So basically,
my eagle's getting stroked today. Holy shit!
These
Oh, shut up! Did I ask you what time it was? Did I? Did you guys hear that? You hear did you hear how Alexa treats me? Like my little nanny, like my mother. Alexa, what time is it?
It's 9:02 p.m.
Okay, isn't she late? She's supposed to say that at 9. Okay, whatever.
Now I really believe you live in California.
Sounds like she's on the West Coast time.
I don't know. She hates me though. She doesn't listen to me very much. I'll ask something. I'll get her some weird answer. Oh, watch this. Alexa, what is atheism? See, she doesn't even listen to me.
Atheism is the absence of belief in the existence of deity.
Oh, you suck. Shut up. Or she did say rejection of belief.
So it's not God, it's just deities in general.
Atheists tend to focus on evidence and reasoning in their approach.
Alexa, stop. Alexa, is atheism the belief there is no God?
According to an Alexa Answers contributor, the definition of atheism is the belief that there is no God.
Alexa, stop. That's all we need to know. That's all we need to know. Yes, she's right. Alexa, stop. There we go. Sorry. She doesn't
Alexa,
like me,
what's my current location?
North Carolina. And by the way, Dan, you've been awfully quiet, Dan.
Yeah, just listening because the audio on YouTube wasn't all that good, so I figured I'd.
Sorry, I'm still gonna leave this up though. I'm still gonna leave this up because this has been fun. I just really, like I said, I was gonna do a test, but shit, we had the actual hangout. I wasn't planning on that, but that's okay.
But
I consider it a successful test.
I do too, but I think it is probably running a little bit long. So, and she's right.
I got it, but just to make sure, can I push back on what Meat said earlier, just a bit?
Absolutely, man.
Yeah, please bring it on.
Just about the ketone things, I just want to make sure I understood you right, because my from what I understand from ketones, if you got too much of it running through your body, it's gonna fuck up the pH on your blood, and it will eventually
so
and
I can answer that really quickly. Yeah, that's called diabetic ketoacidosis.
Yeah.
And like you have like a 15 mmol like amount in the blood, whereas when you're in normal like nutritional ketosis or you're fasting for a long time, it's between usually 1 to 4. Like 4 is like as high as it really goes.
But
if you hit 15, if you hit 15, that's diabetic ketoacidosis, and that means like you take too much insulin and you eat too much carbs like at the same time, and too much fat or something, and then like you are still it's hard to explain.
But you can have like my dad was diabetic, right? So diabetic ketoacidosis is when you have higher ketones in your blood. But ketosis means you're burning the ketones rather than burning.
You're not eating dietary carbs, and then that like turns off glycogen.
Yeah, you're burning the fat rather than glycogen.
And then your pancreas doesn't release insulin as much. It releases a little bit for fat and protein, but way more for carbs.
Let me ask you this though, Meat. Like for example, Dam, he seems to knows the basics. And again, this is just basic stuff. But to have a conversation like you're having, Meat, with somebody, don't you agree that they at least probably would have to know like a little bit of the basics, whether they get it right or not? They at least have to understand some of the things you're talking about, right?
Yeah, no, it's not an easy conversation for most people. I can dumb it down.
Welcome to my world when talking about philosophy. It's the same thing.
Well, I know. I've been in the philosophy, like debate religion thing for 20 years now, since I was like 13. But but on the other hand, like I became interested in nutrition 10 years ago, and I realized like all the same problems are in the nutrition field, right? So you have religion dictating dietary guidelines. The Seventh-day Adventist Church is very vegetarian and have been trying to like ban meat. Yep.
Are they? I didn't know that.
Oh, so if I can plug my website a little bit, I have a website called meatrition.com. You can go to it right now, and I made a history database of all the science, medical journals, and like historical ethnographic accounts of people doing the carnivore diet. And it goes back really well to like the early 1800s, even late 1700s. But then there's sporadic stories before that, like Greek and stuff. But so I've read a lot of like Native American stories, a lot of explorers going up and living with them, doing like native carnivore diets, because they just didn't have the option to bring like 50 pounds of wheat with them. And so those really like stood out as like, oh, this is totally possible. It's just we believe it's impossible because we live in this grain-based, seed oil-based, world now where, you're crazy if you don't eat those. And then to cut out fruits and vegetables, it's also crazy. But, like most vegetables are derivatives of wild mustard, which like evolved or was domesticated like a few thousand years ago. So we can't really say like wild mustard is like necessary to our long-term evolutionary nutrition. So there's just like a lot of interesting things that this like brings up, like, oh wow, I don't need to eat like 95% of what's in the grocery store anymore. And I can also question if all those things are good for me.
I think that's great, actually. I'll tell you what I think here in a second about my kind of diet, but because I have a diet that I'm on too, kind of thing. But I can't find the nutrition.com. It doesn't come up. It's not coming up for me.
Meatrition?
Oh, Meatrition. Nutrition.
it's in my profile too.
Yeah, I'm looking it up because I want to check it out. I usually put things on a tab. I'll check that out later. You know what? Nutrition.com doesn't come up though. Maybe it doesn't. Nobody owns that domain. Nutrition.
Where are you spelling it?
Probably not.
Well, it's too late for me to think of meat, so I'm going to think of bed. Good night, everybody.
Good night, buddy.
I posted it in the chat.
Okay.
It definitely worked. Like remove the space there. But.
Yeah, so I my diet. I mean, the way I like it, I prefer because my doctor has told me I got to get off red meat.
High cholesterol?
Yeah, I'm on statins.
Oh, you're on statins. Which one?
Shit, well, I have it right here. Matter of fact, I got to take one at night. Hang on, where's my pills? I got it. Hang on one sec. God dang it.
Torvastatin, 20 mg.
No, these are rosuvastatin. Rosuvastatin, calcium 5 milligrams. Crestor. It's basically it's the same thing as Crestor.
Oh, Crestor. Yeah.
And I need.
So I have a subreddit called "Stop Using Statins."
Oh no!
Yep.
My dad was on.
Look into that if you want.
Well, these are only 5 milligrams, so it's low dose.
Do you know how statins work?
They affect your LDL by preventing.
Yeah, that's what they do at the end. But
yeah,
do you know how they work?
I long time ago in 2009 when I first was prescribed them, I looked kind of into them, but I really don't remember. But anyways, real quick, I do reduce meat. I like my chicken and fish, but I try to have low cholesterol, obviously, low carb, medium proteins, and a good high fat diet. I do like peanuts and things of that nature, legumes,
seeds, yeah,
beans. Oh, absolutely. I ate a lot of and oatmeal. I'm a big fan of oatmeal, but I'm also an old man. So as you get older, appreciate oatmeal because that's. I'm telling you, eat your oatmeal.
For pooping?
Oh, eat your oatmeal. I just had a colonoscopy not too long ago.
Oh, so yeah.
I had
and what about vegetable oils?
I use non-hydrogenated vegetable oil with I think I usually buy either canola oil.
Oh, sunflower. Oh.
Yeah, I like sunflower, but I mean, as long as it's like it has low hydrogen.
Sunflower has the worst omega-6 balance. So that whole seed oil thing, like it has the highest amount of
grape oil?
acid. Yep, high too. There's like 8 of them that are all high.
What would you recommend for the best seed oil?
I
know what you're talking about. I know when you said seed oil, I wasn't quite sure what you meant, but I do know.
Yeah, no.
Sunflower.
Well, so it's funny they like changed the name from seed oils to vegetable oils to make to give it that health halo, right? So there's a whole thing too. Like the reason we think like cholesterol and saturated fat is bad for us, it comes from the 1960s, 50s even. So the Procter and Gamble company was the largest producer of like Crisco.
Oh
yeah, they like did this whole radio campaign and raised a ton of money for guess which organization?
Heart.
Yes, the American Heart
Association. Yeah, I remember that, and also I remember the same time they were doing the butter and margarine thing too for that same.
Yeah. You had to add yellow.
You're right on. I was there. I remember all that shit. Yeah, Crisco.
Wait, how old are you?
54.
54.
Yeah.
Well, that would have been in the 70s. Yeah, so you were you wouldn't have been cognizant of it in like 85.
No, so. but when you're growing up, then these things are. But it influenced my life because we were in the 80s. It was like my mom would try to buy real butter rather than margarine, right? Because that was all hydrogenated vegetable oil.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sometimes but yeah, that was a thing back in the 80s because it came from the 60s,
but anyway,
70s.
So that AHA basically like asked scientists from Harvard to write a review article that said, don't look at sugar, don't look at seed oils, especially the like omega-6, and instead blame saturated fat and cholesterol. And ever since, like I think all the research is through that like very biased hypothesis.
And
It's called the
similar
lipid heart
saccharin.
hypothesis or diet. Yeah. What?
Saccharin. Remember they were trying to say saccharin
Yeah.
cause cancer because the sugar.
Mhm.
And I happen to like artificial sweeteners, which do work differently on the brain. I recommend. I recognize that. Aspartame, especially, or aspartame, however you want to say it.
In the gut.
But yeah, that's my diet. I mean, I do pay attention to. I am now trying to lose weight because before my diet was for, medical stuff. But now my diet is just I put on like 10 pounds and now I'm starting to take it off. I'm about halfway off and so I'm back. I'm getting back to where I was. But yeah, I do want to lose more weight. But I was saying that I had a colonoscopy. They did find precancerous polyps, so now I got to go for a colonoscopy every year, which sucks.
Oh, it's from the sunflower oil.
No, I don't use much oil, man. I use very light oil.
But you cook everything?
No.
Or do you eat out a lot?
No.
Yeah.
No. I make my own. I very rarely eat out. I have an air fryer, and it's the greatest thing I've ever bought.
Oh, that's good. Okay.
Yeah, in fact, I'm supposed to make chicken tonight for my roommate. I was supposed to make her a whiskey chicken.
Ooh, that sounds good.
Yeah.
I only had one meal today, so I'm kind of hungry now.
Yeah, I'm starving. Yeah.
I only had one meal yesterday.
But I haven't decided if I got a little bit of Jack Daniels left, but I don't know if I want to use Jack Daniels for whiskey chicken. I have a spiced rum actually. I was thinking of making instead. Spice rum
better,
chicken.
yeah.
I think that'd be really good.
Like you have to add more like sweet spices. Like
yeah, what has a
if you had
vanilla
more
flavor to
spicy,
it?
The
The
black would be better.
I might even start marinating them soon because she's not gonna be back till like 4 hours. So I might just start marinating the chicken in a spiced rum, and then go from there in the air fryer. And I do have some panko. I was thinking about breading it with panko. That's how I usually make it. But I think like the other day, I was like, she's like, what are you gonna have? And I was like, oh, I'm gonna make an egg sandwich. And she's like, do you know how to make an egg sandwich? I'm like, it's an egg sandwich. How difficult is making an egg sandwich? And I'm like, I can make you an amazing egg sandwich. And she's like, okay. Made her an egg sandwich. She's like, holy shit, this is like really good. I'm like, it's an egg sandwich. Egg properly cooked over medium, toast with butter, and I like a little salt and pepper, and a piece of nice cheese over it. Egg sandwich. Not complicated.
I just make eggs and add cheese and butter and pour it all out and eat with a fork.
Remember the whole thing about eggs and cholesterol? They were trying to say that too. That's not true.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, it's not true. So look, if you want, if I can give you my advice, I would ignore your doctor about cholesterol.
Yeah, I'm not gonna do that. Yeah, I'm not gonna do that because they have my whole panel, and there's other things involved as well. I'm literally have to take blood tests all the time for I am being monitored, so I have to follow.
I know. It's all part of the.
Yeah, the other thing I like too about that, I'd rather have my doctor be wrong. I've always tell people listen to your doctors, and I'm not going to ever change that. Listen to your doctors. For yourself, you don't have to, but I'm going to listen to my doctor.
But if they're coming from a world where like there's bias science there, wouldn't you want to at least look into the bias science?
No, I'm going to trust my doctor. They went to medical school on this. Yeah.
Well,
because I'm not gonna ever have enough information.
Funded that.
Yeah. I can tell you right now, my dad had high blood pressure and high cholesterol, and he probably lived 30 years longer than he would have without medication. Studies show that standards. When I looked into 2009, studies show that standards increase life expectancy by about 10 years for high cholesterol.
It's like 5 days.
No, I don't believe that.
Yeah. There's this calculation, NNT, number needed to treat. It's like 50 to 200 for statins.
Yeah.
Oh, and I can even explain like how they work. Do you know there's a mycotoxin involved?
Yeah, I remember something. That's why you don't want to do like 10 milligram or higher or something.
Yeah, well, it stops your mevalonate pathway in your cells.
Every drug has a problem, right?
A lot of them actually work on the same lines as what seed oils affect. The arachidonic acid pathway.
By the way, what are you on any kind of medications?
No. I'm 35. I'm 142 pounds, like 19 BMI.
Right? 19 BMI?
No, I just eat really well for 10 years.
Yeah,
Everyone thinks I look 25. I'm like,
my
no.
BM guy get up to about 26 or 28, I think it was at my peak, but I want to get down to like 25 BMI. 19's thinny. I mean, you're like skinny.
Yeah, I'm like an old rower, so
yeah,
I never really got into lifting. So
yeah. When I was in good shape, I had a very thin physique. I was cut though. I was ripped. I have pictures of me in high school. I have one picture that shows that my arms and my back had so much definition it was ridiculous. Because I weightlifted all throughout college, but tone lifting, not powerlifting, right? So I went for form, and I was in good fucking shape. That's why I went in the Navy when I was 17. And boot camp, had I not been in shape, boot camp would have killed me.
Yeah.
But I already went into boot camp because I already I swam all the time. I went to the gym all the time because where I lived had a gym we live in condos, and so I was in really, really good shape. Because in the military you got to run 5 miles a day. By the way, 5 miles. We're not joking here. Do you know how long 5 miles is to run? It's not, maybe not every single day, but physically you had to go for PE in the morning at 5 o'clock in the morning, and some of that you would run the grinder for at least 2 miles, and then sometimes you would run 5 miles.
I used to do long distance running and long distance rowing. I rode 60,000 meters in one sitting once.
So you know that for the average person, even 2 miles is very difficult to run. 5 miles, you have to at least be in decent shape.
I mean, the average person is overweight. So.
Right. But when I was in good shape and only 124 pounds when I went in, I came out as 142 pounds. Because I ate a lot. See, one thing about the Navy or any military, well, I can't speak for any military, but at least in the Navy, the chow hall, you had 20 minutes to eat your fine Navy chow, and you can go back and eat as much as you want. They wanted you to eat the calories. They're like, yeah, go back for more. If you can chow it down, go for it. So I ate a lot. I was probably eating 5,000 calories a day because I liked the Navy food, and we were burning it off because you can go back for seconds in the military in boot camp. They want you to pile it on. At least when I was in. But
yeah, I basically did that in rowing too. We'd have the unlimited buffets.
All right. Anyways, guys, I do have to get going. It has been a lot longer than I expected.
Yeah,
I was test for about
too. My
half
baby's
hour,
crying.
but now it's been 3 hours. So, anyways, thank you. Keep in touch with me on Twitter, okay?
Sure. Yeah.
And Dan, thanks for listening in. Sorry, I didn't get a chance to talk a lot.
Yeah, great. We'll pick it up some other time. That's cool.
One last person says, and I don't know the Camaradico's name. He says, just not the definition. It's atheist, not anti-theist. That's true. Goalpost shifting, the burden of proof, lack of belief does not belief in lack. Yeah, we're something like that. But anyways, thanks guys for watching. Thanks. Leave comment what you think. I have these hangouts every weekend now. Every Friday night. I think it's going to already be because that's my best night. I do have Friday nights to myself. I don't have anything to do, no work, no play, nothing. I got Friday nights as for myself, and I think that I might just do these Twitter Spaces on Fridays. So follow me on Twitter.
I might have to do my own.
Do it, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, guys, I'm gonna end this, and we'll see you guys later. Peace.